welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bo Snail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Last Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Google and Discord so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show. Hello.
Okay, good. Didn't work the first time. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Morning, Ted.
Good morning. Morning, all.
Hey, did you change your name to something Shot? A new Shot?
Yeah, that's, I teach golf. So when I signed up, I'm on my iPad again because my PC has some technical work that needs done. And so when I'm on my PC, it says see the shot. And when I'm on my iPad, it says 10th man. So I've got to change that somehow.
Wow. You teach golf.
Well, I teach aspects of golf. I don't teach the swing or the technical side of the swing, but the way people play golf.
You know,
I did a lot of,
there's a
there's a
TV show called Top Shot.
I'm sorry.
There's a TV show called Top Shot that a golf instructor like yourself won the world's top shot. Like he was the best shooter in the world. And I'm not talking golf shots either.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm not talking golf shots either. I'm talking, they put any weapon in his hand and he was just an ace with it.
Gotcha.
And it was amazing, and they were asking like, what do you do for a living? Are you an instructor in the military or something? It's like, no, I teach golf.
That's great. Yeah, I just mainly did a lot of work on automaticity and why a human being gets into parallel processing. So that's what I teach.
Parallel processing is part of golf?
Automaticity. Part of everything. It's your default position.
I don't think I need to think about that while I'm lining up for a golf swing.
Ted, break it down for him, man. Break it down for him.
Well, he just validated by saying he's.
I mean, I play some golf myself now, and I don't think I'm sitting there thinking about this type of stuff when I'm lining up for a shot.
Thank you very much.
This is my corner. I'm going to solicit business. Do it elsewhere.
Hot dogs. Get your hot dogs. Nathan's hot dogs. New York's best.
Oh, they're the best. They are the absolute best.
Yeah.
Nathan's
What do
dogs
you
and Nathan's
call
fries.
call a New York hot dog?
What was that?
Neil.
What do you call a New York hot dog?
Neil.
No, it's called a dirty water dog.
Come on, Neil.
Oh, dude,
It's called
really?
a dirty water dog, for real.
Okay, you got serious when I was using you as the hot dog.
I
man.
believe you.
Oh yeah. I'm kind of a hot dog. You're right.
What I know of New Yorkers, I believe that.
No, that's a nickname they came up with. Let me get a dirty water dog.
Yeah, you gotta say it that way too, right?
So much attitude.
I love New Yorkers. They don't mince words. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no false politeness, smiling at your face and then stabbing you in the back. They'll just stab you in the face.
Yeah,
Did they
forget
still beg the
about
question, John?
Well, that was my problem down south, John. When I went down south, they had that Southern hospitality, but they were just as ruthless as New Yorkers, business-wise. I was like, man, at least we don't have no hospitality and we stab you in the back. These guys smile and stab you in the back.
absolutely.
Yes, they do.
I'm from the South. I know what it is. That whole it's just like the meme about bless your heart. Oh, bless your heart.
Exactly.
No, let's go
Bless
fuck
your
yourself.
heart. But that's as far as it goes, Southern hospitality. It's a yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, bless your heart. That's it. And trust me, I know.
I like appreciate. Appreciate you is my favorite.
Appreciate
They've been
you.
nice to me.
Which means kids lost.
Oh, that appreciate you got that used to drive me nuts. What's the other one? I know
Yeah, it
that's
means
right.
get lost.
I know that's right.
Remember that song, Backstabbers? Okay, I guess not.
Sing
No.
It's called Smile in Your. It's called Backstabbers. The OJ sing it, and I just pulled up the lyrics because I remembered it when Neil was saying what he was saying. It says, "They smile in your face all the time. They
Oh,
want to
yes.
take your place."
Yeah, I know that song. Now that you said it, I got it.
And then listen. Yeah, well, hang on. Listen to the lyric here. They smile in your face all the time. They want to take your place. The backstabbers. They're smiling in your face all the time. They want to take your place. They're backstabbers, right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah, that's a real song. I remember that song.
great beat too.
Yeah.
So who was it that said, when I play golf, I don't want to think about it? Who was that?
Solaris. I don't think about that when I play golf. When
Right,
I'm
but
lining up
that's
for
not
a
how
shot
people
playing golf, I don't think about that.
think about what?
About what?
Stuff you were just saying.
No, it's I see, you took it wrong because you thought about it. I teach state.
See, exactly.
It's a state you come in. It's not a step. But people who play sports have steps, and they're not in a state.
That'll be $20.
Donate to
Right.
Nathan Oakley, and if you got a phone service, please consider changing.
Oh, I'm glad you reminded me because I overheard, these people just can't keep flat earth debate off their lips. I heard them again saying, we kick Ranty out of our club, and where'd you expect the guy to go? He got kicked out of the Nathan Oakley club. Oh my gosh.
Is there a club?
I don't know, ex Bob Nodell, he'll tell you.
Nathan, did you start a club that I'm not aware of?
No. You're all here of your own volition. No one's getting paid. Except me.
Now that reminds me, I posted something on Friday. I went to get my latest eyeglass prescription from Costco. So I was in line with about 2-3 people in front of me. So these two gentlemen were talking. I just minded my own business. And one of them was real good at asking questions. So where do you work? What you do? And so these are just two strangers who had just met. So the guy who was answering the questions, his number got called. So now the guy who's asking the questions looks at me, and I know I'm next because he just wants to talk. So he starts, real nice guy. We start talking. I have no idea how we get on the subject, but we get on the subject of the current pandemic and all that goes with it. And so we're talking, and I start, speaking some truth to him, the opposite view of the current propaganda. Sure enough, the guy who was there comes back, who was the first guy he was talking to, and he hears what we're talking about. So he jumps in, uninvited. I mean, he just jumps in, and he says, "Nah, you're wrong." And I go, "What are you talking about?" Just me talking to him. He says, "No, you're wrong. I know the channels you listen to." I started busting up. I go, "You know the channels I listen to. What channels do I listen to?" Conspiracy channels. and I said, "Look, we just met. You don't even know me, and you know the channels I listen to." So I looked at the guy that I was talking to, and I said, "Do you see what I'm talking about? The programming is so great. The mainstream media's got this guy. If they don't agree with what he's parroting, they're listening to conspiracy channels. This is their whole plan, to divide people." It was awesome.
I was just going to say that. It sounds like he's the one that's listening to conspiracy of the leaders.
Well, he's just pushing the propaganda from the mainstream channels. And the mainstream channels are saying, watch out for fake news, watch out for this, watch out for that. As if it goes against the government office titled Ministry of Truth, then they're listening to conspiracy channels. So this guy was a completely wonderful example of what happens when you encounter mainstream propaganda. So now you take that with what our topic is on the show, which is physics and the natural world, and we oftentimes go to other subjects like what is light and what is this and how does that work, but mainly we're on flat Earth, and it's the same thing. They're parroting whatever the schools and everything indoctrinate them. They'll say gravity does this. Well, gravity's not a force. Well, it was when I went to school. It's like, well, it's gotten weak.
Imagine if you would have hit him with flat Earth. Oh boy,
Oh, he
would have
wasn't
really
worth
had
it.
a heart attack.
No, he wasn't worth it. You have to gauge who you talk to, because if they can't handle the truth, like that movie line.
Them telling you to look out for fake news is the metaphorical equivalent of a guy in a black and white striped suit with a mask carrying a bag with swag written on it, telling you to look out for burglars.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's classic. But you know what was great was the response of the guy who I was alone with for just a short while. He says, "You know what? I'm going to have to look into that." And he says, "Really?" I kept just throwing some truth bombs out there. He says, "I didn't know that."
Speaking of truth bombs, something that surprised me, I wouldn't have mentioned if it was a single one-off occurrence, but there was some... Hi, Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Hello.
Hello, Adam.
There were some stickers that were left on all the local cash points, basically putting down masks. Not worth mentioning. But then a few days later, someone else put a sticker on, and it didn't have any specific information about what it was talking about. It just said, the people in 1940s Germany didn't know they'd been brainwashed by media and government either. That was all it said.
Well, we understand what that means.
That's brilliant.
That's all that needs to be said.
Well, it's kind of an indictment of both sides, that for people that don't investigate for themselves things they want to believe is truth, isn't it?
Well, the irony being that how does the guy who made the sticker know what happened in 1940s Germany? Because what he's got to go on is the propaganda. So, not being, while I appreciate the sentiment, I also see the irony in it. But there we go.
That's what I was going to ask. How do we know that actually happened?
We don't. We're subject to the propaganda. That's the irony. But I understand that my point is more about the sentiment, the general feeling amongst the people. Now, I'm not saying that's represented by a sticker on a cash point, but I'm just saying that wouldn't have happened pre-pandemic. That's what I'm saying.
Well, not everything didn't happen. So the challenge I have with people in this time these days. Well, we can't believe any history. Well, yeah, I guess because they messed around with some, we might as well throw the whole thing out. I mean, you got to be careful here.
Well, it's a different standard, isn't it? There's a standard that you can adhere to. John LeBon goes on about this all the time. Primary source research, validating things with a historical standard, very different to the standard that we deal with here.
True. Oh, I'll give you a story. When we were in Europe, we went to the concentration camp, Dachau. Took my family to it. Well, we used our phone and called my wife's father, whose father was a doctor and was assigned to that camp. And when I married my wife, he was alive, and we talked about it because I'm a war buff. And so here we are after he passed away, the grandfather, that is. And we're at the exact place he was during the time of the war in the 40s. So we decided, let's call your dad and just let him know the ironies of ironies. We're here where his dad was. So he's got pictures, he's got stories. He passed it down to his father. Then I came into the family, and I talked to him, primary source, the doctor himself, before he passed. So, yeah, someone's going to say that never existed. Well, there's more than that as a witness anyway. So it's just funny how sometimes people want to say everything in history is made up when it's not.
Well, I feel better now.
I've also,
did he tell you some stories?
Sorry, just one sec. I've also been to Dachau, and the locals didn't know the historic significance of it, which I thought was very, very interesting.
Yeah, that was also part of the narrative of how they can have something this hideous going on right next to people who live there. And so the story also is they got all those people and they brought them into the camp, all the people that lived next to Dachau, and had them view it and have them help with the bodies so that they could never deny it either. So was that story also told?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the explanation I got, because I asked the rep that was taking us, why don't they know? And his explanation to me, in very broken English, was that the mothers wouldn't tell the children. So a couple of generations swing by, and who's going to tell their children about that? So therefore the story dies.
Sure. Yeah, if the story's never told, how's it can ever be retold?
Right, but then you end up in a position where people don't know the historic significance of the town they're living in, to the point where a tourist like me will go, what? Because what sparked me was the guy told me it was famous for its beer. Oh, it's very famous for its beer. Oh, really? Where? Dachau. Oh, right, famous for its beer. And he was like, yeah. So I didn't say anything, and then, like I say, afterwards I asked, I'm like, why didn't he know? He's like, yeah, mothers, they mollycoddle their children, therefore they don't want to tell them that sort of thing, therefore a couple of generations, well, I've already said it, but you know what I mean, that was the explanation I was given.
Well, that's true too. If something could be happening and no one tells the story of it, and people be right next door to it and they don't know anything about it.
Right.
That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
What about the other local villagers, their football teams, and the chance they'd give them with regards to who they were, where they were located? It seems a little implausible that you could hide that from the locality because the mothers wouldn't tell their children. Because
that's exactly what I thought. I thought, no, come on.
Yeah. Imagine that was Man U and Liverpool, and Manchester had Dachau there. Imagine the chance.
Well, that's exactly my opinion. You wouldn't not know, regardless of whether or not your mother told you or not. But there we go. That was the story.
It all seems a bit fishy to me.
Well, it's like the Turks, the massacre of the Armenians, my nationality, and to this day they deny it. Well, my grandmother told me stories, and so it's like, come on. There's so much evidence. We have the ambassador of the United States at the time who was in Turkey. We got all the newspaper correspondents who saw it. We've got even Turks who saw it, who were appalled by it. And yet, with all the evidence, with 2 million plus killed, they still deny it. And so Armenian genocide comes each year and goes, the remembrance of it. And Turkey says, you better not. You better not. If you want to deal with us in the favorable government status, you better not bring that up. But every year, every time someone's running for office and they want the Armenian vote, I remember the genocide.
Of course. I was going to say, it's it's one of those. It's a horrible subject to talk about, but you've got a primary source in your was it great or just grandfather-in-law?
Okay, my dad's mom.
Right, just dad's mother.
Yeah, my dad's mother.
So grandmother.
Well, my dad, even my dad, because my dad, the reason I was born in Iran is because of the genocide. I should have been born in Armenia. But then again, my dad wouldn't have met his wife in Armenia, so maybe I wouldn't have been born. But the whole point is, my dad's dad fled when he saw 45 members of his family slaughtered. He fled.
So you're Armenian?
Correct.
Oh, I'm gonna figure out your name yet, 10th man.
Well, you're not, because I'm a quarter Russian too. So you gotta make sure you bring that.
I'm gonna figure it out.
You like the guy in the Godfather.
See the shot. How much more clues do you want?
Remember the scene in The Godfather where the guy's breeding horses, race horses. He's talking to the Godfather's lawyer, and he explains his lineage, and then he rattles off every insult for each one of those lineages. It's like,
yep. Well, listen here, what do you call him? What Mick friends?
My Kraut Mick friend.
Yeah, my Kraut Mick friend. I'm German Irish, he tells him.
That's it.
Speaking of horses, the Kentucky Derby winner drug test failed, I guess.
Let me tell you something. This is the first time that I did not even know the Kentucky Derby was on. I had no clue till this morning.
It never happened, Neil. We just won't tell you the story.
Hey, the other thing about that if you look at that part in The Godfather, that shows you how ruthless even the lawyer was, because he had to go back and let Don Corleone know how much this guy loved that horse.
Just a quick comment with regard to primary sources. Wouldn't M. Scott Beach say his dad is a primary source?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't 9/11 have primary source evidence of people at the bottom of the buildings?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, they had full statements ready to go.
Correct. And
no one said primary sources can't lie.
I was took the words out of my mouth.
That was my point.
It's weighing standards of evidence once you get to the primary source. You know, just because they've written it down and you've got a primary source doesn't mean what they say is correct. You still have to assess.
It's like a citation.
Yeah, exactly. It is a citation in effect, but you've got a more, you know, if you're basing your research on a historic standard and you've only got a story about a man who apparently existed, for example. I haven't got time to rattle off a whole load of examples now, but you know what I'm talking about. Then that's not a primary source compared to somebody. At least you can assess the validity of what they have said or written, if they have said or written it, as opposed to it being a story that you haven't got a source for, and it just seems to have been materialized from other people, in some cases, just inventing characters. Like literally inventing.
So what
people.
about the guy in the street that said the buildings collapsed due to structural support?
Two planes careered into the building, and then there was multiple fires, and then the buildings collapsed, probably because of structural fires. That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
The guy who knew the full narrative the moment it happened from the ground. That guy.
Yeah, that guy.
How that guy came up with the conclusion that the building collapsed due to structural fires, which is very clearly articulated by him, given that at the time, I don't believe any other structural there'd been no other fires that had caused structural failure in the same way ever. But he was there on the spot with that narrative. It was just incredible. How insightful.
Yeah, the best one before you go was the building and the newscaster in front of the building.
The one that hadn't collapsed, but they reported on how it had. And it's in the background in a shot.
As you see, Building 7 is gone.
Anyway.
Do you guys remember the truck that went over, I think it's Manhattan Bridge?
2 minutes past. Make it quick.
Just this thing. It's one of these, I don't know whether it's a Mandela thing or whatever, but some people I remember a truck was reported on that day because I was down in Canterbury just watching it in an internet cafe. So it was there all day. And I remember a truck being reported, had been seen going over Manhattan Bridge with.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th man, father of a stolen child, Arwin joining in the middle of my introduction, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good
Morning.
afternoon. Housekeeping? Everyone keen?
Yes.
Everyone awake in Discord?
Getting there.
Sort of. Any evidence of
Getting
physical geometric spheroid horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Getting there, but no.
Well, it's a physical obstruction, isn't it?
It was back at the Isle of Man. They used to draw a tangent to it and claim it was getting in the way of things. Not anymore. Now we can't see it.
No, it's been demoted to refraction only now.
Yeah, just imagine things into the distance only disappear because they're going over the curve.
Going over the refraction, as they now claim, invalidating their geometric assertion that requires a tangent.
Yeah, they gave up something physical to something optical now.
Yeah, and their maths doesn't have that in it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you measure that then?
You don't. That's the end of the argument. If you're claiming physical geometry and you cannot measure said geometry, then you no longer have a claim.
Well, maybe the geometry is not physical.
Well, then, what, like a hill getting in the way of something behind it isn't physical? Because that's what Earth curves claim to be, a physical obstruction to things in the distance, because it's curving away from you, and things behind that physical obstruction are supposed to be dropping behind it. Ergo, yeah, it's supposed to be a physical geometric spheroid horizon that blocks your view. It's just not that anymore because the Black Swan debunked it.
Well, maybe that's just the more superficial explanation, the dumbed down version, right?
How much
Because
more
maybe
can you,
the geometry just isn't physical at all.
how can you dumb down a hill and say it's not physical? It's supposed to be a hill getting in the way.
Well, maybe they did that because they knew that the average person could not imagine that a geometry would be there but not physical.
I can answer that. So then what you're saying is that the bottoms of boats and buildings are not physical, but just optical.
No.
Sure, because if geometry can't be measured, then what is it?
It can, well, yeah, if it's not physical, it can be measured. That's true. but that wasn't the point. It's just
Well, the
that
point.
the geometry is spherical, right? But people can't imagine that spherical geometry is not actually physical. So they just try to explain it as if it were physical, even though it really isn't.
No,
But that doesn't mean there isn't any spherical geometry going on.
That's
right?
correct.
That's the point.
That's correct. Darwin's summary is absolutely correct.
So what did Al-Biruni do?
He didn't. That's the point. That's where the get are, and they can't do that anymore. So their assertions with geometry are all bunk. All the claims they made prior with the calculators and that it's tangent to a horizon are all void also. They never had that to make the assertion in the first instance.
Al-Biruni didn't know about refraction, so what did he measure?
He didn't. Measure an optical phenomena that moves with the bloody weather. The horizon's not a physical sphere edge to acquire an R value from. In the case of Al-Biruni, that's what he was doing.
So Al-Biruni didn't measure physical. He didn't know about refraction. What did he see?
I just said he didn't. He's claimed to have measured radius by way of assumptions of physical sphere edges and dip angles to them in physicality.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. The whole story's made up to support the presupposition of a radius that you live on a sphere. Thank you.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
I just wanted to virtue signal to the ballers out there. I just got Nathan to agree upon non-physical spherical geometry of Earth.
I agreed that's what they argue. That's not what I agreed upon. I agreed that's what they argue. Your summary of their argument is correct. Not your point
somebody
in
could
there.
edit this clip out of context, though.
Yeah, you could trim it out and have it out of context, but no, I was agreeing with your summary of their argument, not your devil's advocate position in regards to their argument. I wasn't agreeing with that. Let's make that clear.
There's no axial rotation for sure.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Not today, I bet you, Arwen. I can't even see her.
It seems to be over there.
Got rainbows here. Sun and rain.
Nice.
Very pretty.
It's inside the firmament.
Don't you need a,
Here we go again.
And I
Here we
am
go.
going to find it.
don't you need a radius value the way they measured the distances?
What's a firmament? What's a firmament?
The firmament is the covering God put over us.
I thought it was a
sun and the
badly
moon are
translated
inside it.
word from Old Hebrew.
Yeah, that's what it is. It means rakia.
Well, where's Rakia when you need him?
Yeah, it was rakia.
Rakia means roof.
But that, what's that?
Roof.
Yeah. Okay, so solid roof. We're in a solid roof. It's called.
How do you know
it
that?
doesn't mean expanse.
How do you know that?
Because they changed the original Hebrew meaning of the word.
In the pre-show we were discussing, the standard here is not historic.
I go by the word of God. The word of God says it's a firmament, it's a covering, and inside the firmament you put the stars, the moon, and the sun to give its heat off for the day, and the lesser light, the moon, to give its light out at night.
Okay.
And you
I
also
agree with-
put the stars in there.
Okay,
I
that's
agree
your
with
belief.
you too, Neil.
Okay.
But what Nathan is saying is that on this show, because we can't touch it, manipulate it, it's historic. It's not the same standard we show for the show.
We'll
so
get-
both
well,
of you are right.
No,
I
we
can
get to
help
the,
out
no,
with this.
no. Just before we got to the start of the live show, we got to the point where we said, well, no, when you get to a valid primary source, it doesn't mean that means everything that they say is legitimate just because you can validate that they existed, they documented what they claimed. That doesn't make their claims valid. You then assess them on their validity. So according to the claim so far, the word of God says there's a roof.
Can't have gas pressure without a container.
Can I address this?
Hold on, Neil. That's a reasonable logical inference that dissuades the argument that we have a sky vacuum. But there's no roof in that claim. I can state that you can't have gas pressure without a container. That's a statement of fact. The way it's calculated, it requires a volume. So that's a statement of fact. And because of that statement of fact, it invalidates the claim that the sky is a vacuum. But it cannot other than with logical inference, be used to claim what the sky is? Now, don't get me wrong, I accept and wouldn't challenge 10th Man on his assertion that he's made. Because by way of logical inference, that's the only conclusion you can draw, I might add. But I'm not going to make it, because then it leaves you, Neil, in this instance, open to be challenged about your roof.
Hold on a second.
Prove your roof.
There is a little bit more detail.
Hold on a
in
second.
Job.
Wait a second. You got a room, a 10 by 10 room, and we got gas pressure. There's no ceiling up there, Nathan.
I just said, I just said,
Get
I
excited.
wouldn't, hold on. Just explained, based on 10th Man saying just precisely that only moments earlier, I would not disagree. The logical inference is the only one you can draw. However, that is just that, a logical inference based on the fact you can't have gas pressure without a container. It's a logical antecedent-consequent relationship that you can't get around or demonstrate otherwise. So I'm not going to disagree with it. But you don't need to make that logical inference, and you don't know. And your logical inference also acquires confirmation bias from the Bible.
One more bit for you then, just to get it out. It's Job 37:18, and it's with him you have spread out the skies. And it's a comparison. It's not describing again, but it's a comparison as to how strong as a cast metal mirror. There's the description. So again, not what it is, but an understanding of how strong it must be.
But that's
again, not descriptive of the physicality.
No offense, Adam. This isn't a historic standard, and a metaphor for how strong it is, without causing offence to Christians, is useless to us in this setting.
I would say this: you're not causing offense to Christians whatsoever. The Christians accept the Word of God as God's inerrant, inspired word, and the non-Christians don't, and we know the difference.
No, that's not fair. I don't accept it as the Word of God, but I do place it in and this would be the point, a very special category when dealing with it. Yeah, so I wouldn't put it in science. I wouldn't put it in historical. I'd stick it in its own and ask people to judge it there where it. I've never seen it wrong yet. In terms of, we have misunderstandings and we grow, and you laughed at it when you was a kid about things, statements like that, firmament and all that, and then look at us now. So now there may be certain Christian apologetics where people will get attacked for, oh, there's this contradiction here and there. But I'm talking, when we look at this, talk about like primary evidence, primary sources. This is how I would view that. This is something of the time for me, that somebody knows something, has first-hand knowledge, and it's a statement that is historical and the best preserved historical document we've got, I think.
All it gives you, okay, let me just respond to that. All it offers you is the same logical inference you can draw yourself. It doesn't offer you any more than that. Now, if you hadn't already drawn the logical inference, that might be a useful guide. But that, it doesn't offer me anything more. Unless you can point me right, what else is it giving us that we didn't have by way of logical inference that Neil had already drawn?
Can we stop peer
That's
please?
science, isn't it? That's science. That's not what I'm saying it's giving them. What I get from that is a profound understanding a very long time ago of the concepts of the and prepared to step out and make bolder statements than you, Nathan, and me with regards to the construct of things. But that understanding has been perverted over time. That understanding was a lot better than what we have now. It would be, and it helps me see that through history, the conclusion I've come to is not the first time it's come to. So,
can I address the actual argument instead of us peer reviewing it for 10 minutes?
Sure.
Sorry, Ari.
Right. Yeah. So when Neil says the sun is put underneath the firmament, right? That doesn't even necessarily have to imply that the sun is a physical object or has a literal location. That could simply imply that the site, which is what we have evidence, it's the only thing we have evidence of, the site of the sun, right, at the edge of view in a holographic fashion. Maybe it implies that when you get up to the firmament, at some point you don't see it anymore. So the sight may be placed underneath the firmament, emphasizing that if you get closer to it, wherever it is, however high up it is, the barrier, the containment, that you no longer see the sight of the sun. And in that sense, it could be technically perfectly correct. It doesn't necessarily have to be you place the sun underneath like it's a physical object. That doesn't have to be what that means.
I think they say it's in the firmament.
Yes, you're right.
The
In
sight.
the firmament.
The sight of it. That could, the sun, as described, could simply be the sight of the sun.
This is
Not
where I'd
necessarily
agree
an
with you,
object.
Nathan, on this topic, discussing it. When we're getting into schematics of it, no, the Bible, I wouldn't have any validity in terms of, like I say, adding to the detail. Just the knowledge is what I'm saying there. But I think
I wouldn't disagree. You know, if I hadn't come across this information already and I was studying the Bible, excellent bit of information, right?
Yeah, but then I say it tongue in cheek because I think you'd be a fool. I think when you do eventually find out what it is all about, you'll find that my betting would be that the Bible doesn't contradict it, and in a way that its viewpoint is correct. It has a special validity for me. Like I say, it sits in its own. I don't know why. I don't go as far as 10th and say it's the word of God and preserved for me from God, but I do think it has a special place, and it does contain the word of God within it.
Okay. Don't know how this has ended up on the table, but fine. Can we move on?
No distance to the sun.
Yeah. Well, Neil seems to have a whole load of things. That's why it came on this subject. Thank you.
Well, we can't measure it. It's somewhere, but we don't
It
know.
relates to what we were saying earlier, primary sources and what validates to me. I mean, there's quite an interesting thing of where you'd place that, and how we were saying historical sources. And
Hold on. What I find interesting is everybody esteems everything else higher than the Word of God when the Word of God was seen first. That don't make no sense to me. Well, science says, well, the Word of God was seen before all of that.
That's not what I said. I said it doesn't offer us any more than we already have. But your logical inference and your assertion of what the luminaries are and where they are, it's, for me personally, a step too far. Now you're saying, well, it seems nuts to me that you wouldn't just take the word of God. I'm like, okay, well, at the stage that I already understand that we require containment to have gas pressure, then I'll accept it. Now, you may not like that, and you may say, well, I just blindly accept it because I understand that it's going to turn out to be true in the end. It's like, well, for me personally, I want to know that it is before saying it's also agreed upon by what the Bible stated in this particular piece of text, as opposed to the other way around. So, you know, I'm not decrying anything, Neil, and I'm not saying that it's wrong either. I'm just saying, go on. I can hear you itching.
No, I'm itching. Christians who are good students of the Bible don't blindly accept anything.
Does everybody
You all
just
need to
ignoring
talk
my
to Paula.
statement now?
I don't want to get into
I
a debate.
tried
Okay,
to
yes,
bridge
test
it.
everything. Yes, okay, I get it. I get it. I'm not saying recant, take back, rescind, whatever the word is.
No distance to the sun, Nathan.
Thank you. What about you, Neil?
Right, even though it's underneath the dome or the firmament, right? That could simply mean, like, what are the luminaries? It's something you see. It's only optical. So maybe the optical part, the seeing of it, only happens underneath the firmament.
Maybe.
Right? It's
Well, no,
all
but-
context. You have to be very precise.
It's not contextualized that way. You're embellishing what it actually says.
Am I?
Yeah. Blatantly.
Oh, really? So the luminary is placed underneath the firmament has to mean suddenly that it is a physical thing, or simply the sight of it is placed underneath that firmament, whatever
Well,
it
it was
is.
within the
Your
firmament.
inference. That's your inference.
I thought the passage was
Within the firmament, and that
not
could mean
under.
inside the boundary, whatever it's made of.
What I'm saying, though, is that could imply that only the sight of them is appearing to us within the firmament. And I'm saying, well, you're
Exactly.
embellishing it. But we're
Yeah,
not here to
that's
discuss
not what
the
it
Well,
said.
what
Bible.
are they then?
We're not
Right?
even through housekeeping. And we're discussing...
You got to the good point there, Nathan, where exactly that, what you said at the beginning, and so it doesn't take you any further to allow. You've got to embellish to go any further from it.
Yes, indeed. That doesn't mean I'm saying it's wrong. Far from it. Let's move on. Any scientific
No
evidence of
distance to
gravity?
the sun.
Yeah, we got that.
I just want to emphasize that maybe the ones that originally had these master visions, these communications with God in order to describe this, simply themselves did not understand what they were seeing, so they just saw it as lights. And that's why they left it so blank, because they hadn't figured out what holographic nature even means.
No, wrong. It's claimed to be the word of God. Merely penned by
Yeah,
man. So
well, it's
no.
going to be received by people that are going to have to understand it and translate it
No,
into words
wrong.
somehow.
No, that's not what Christians claim. Can we move on?
Yes.
All right.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What's that? Supposed to be a non-force force now? How can you find scientific evidence for a non-force force?
Gravity, the phenomenon, or gravity, is it a phenomenon, or gravity, the presumed cause of this assumed phenomenon? What are we talking about?
You want me to answer? The uneven distribution of mass causing the bending of a conceptual medium known as pseudo-Riemannian force space. The effect labelled gravity. Getting heckled from the chat. Guns of Navarone, RMP. Nathan, quit acting like a pagan. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Just kidding, of course. What? Flat Earth debate.
Yeah,
So
I'm just a
gravity
little,
is
like,
Einstein's theory.
I have objections here. Like what Christians think. Oh, really? So what I said is not what Christians think, really. So what Christians
just not
think is
gonna get off
written
the
down in
subject.
code. This is exactly how a Christian think. No, that would be like a cult. Right?
What's
Christian
happening here?
is freedom of mind, is figuring out the truth.
The reality of
truth.
what's going on here is called a power struggle. So occasionally Arwin will do this. Arwin's picked up on the vibe that I want to move on. Now Arwin is asserting his dominance by intentionally keeping this subject going. That's what he's doing. I've known him long enough. I've known him about 4 years. So, yeah, you want to continue with this then, Arwin? Okay, mic's all yours. Go ahead.
All right. Well, it's just that if you're going to use a rebuttal that this is not what Christians think, that seems kind of like downplaying Christianity, because there's a wide range of different interpretations by a lot of Christians, even gets politicized. So I wouldn't say this is what Christians think. Part of Christianity, of actually following the path of enlightenment through Christ, is to figure it out. So you can't even make that statement correctly.
You've dilated your own point.
Figuring it out is a
respond?
continuing struggle.
You dilated your own point. Your point was a translation from, quote, the word of God by way of the translation via a human. No, that is not what that is not the case. It is the word of God as far as Christians are concerned. It doesn't matter that the pen is held by a man. That's just a fact. Now, by convoluting that into the interpretation that Christians take from the Bible, you've diluted down your own point that you were making. When I disagreed with you based on it being the word of God as far as Christians are concerned, you were wrong. I am right. Let's move on, please.
No. I never said that the word of God, that I'm like reinterpreting it. No, it's the word of God is given, right, to a human, right? It's not just God, like in a loudspeaker without a human saying these things in a way. No, it's always given to a human being that's going to give out a translation through their insight and knowledge of word, the language that they use.
That's
right?
your original
so
point.
They use the word that were the best available to them. Does that mean that our interpretation based on our vantage point
is dumb?
is the only way? I don't think so.
You've
And I just
superimposed-
gave you
Well,
an
stop.
alternative interpretation.
Oh,
Why
God,
is
he won't,
everybody
he won't. He'll keep
prompting
going.
me?
You
What
just
the hell?
superimposed your original point after diluting it into a different point. and me debunking it twice on both sides of that dilution, you've now reinserted your original point, which is when I'm not even a Christian. Why am I having to fight this? When they pen those words, they are, matter of fact, the word of God. Now, you've reiterated your original point, which is by their, what's the word? The movement from God to the pen, they've interpreted it. And that's simply not the case as I understand it from Christians. Now, at this point, I say as I understand it so I can make myself seem like I don't know, to open the door to someone else to say, yeah, he's right, because I am.
Yeah, Nathan, you're right. There's
didn't
no
understand
distance to
what
the
you just
sun.
said, but whatever. It's still the word. I
Look,
took it literal as is given, and I gave you an alternative route to interpret it without actually changing anything about it.
May I give an example here? I've had many conversations with Christians, and they would look at a passage, and I would look at a passage, and they come out with a complete different outcome than what I give. Then I'd say, well, let's go and see if other passages support your passage or my passage. And then we do a deep search in the Bible, because it is the word of God to a Christian. There's no contradictions, as Nathan is saying. The original that came from God to the men who were inspired to write it is authentic. Copies have scribal errors on the side. That's the beauty of textual criticism. When we have 26,000 copies of the New Testament, you can just go back and back to the oldest ones and see that they're just all the same, except the scribe may have wrote a little note on the side, and then later on somebody thought that was also something God said and then put it in. And he said, no, see, we caught it because it wasn't in the earlier manuscripts. So this could go on and on. But basically, Nathan is right. Christians believe it is the word of God, inspired.
I never contradicted any the that. I feel like I'm being heavily strawmanned here from both of you.
No,
like I'm the outsider, like I'm the one that's actually trying to break it or something. This is ridiculous.
No, Arwen, I didn't say you did. You have a very good conceptual understanding of things, and you brought it from that point, and that's your strength.
By the many arms of Ganesh. Can we move on? Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Ganesh, the thought.
Nothing at all.
Black holes bend light.
Black hole bend light.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true baller.
Yeah, you see something out there, you can't explain why there's a dark spot in between a light, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, there can only be one interpretation of that. That's because there is a super heavy mass there with a giant amount of gravity that sucks everything into it, because that's the only way that it could be. If gravity was real, it has to be real, otherwise the ball makes no sense, right? And thus, well, could be that the gravity is so strong that it actually bends the light, and that's why you see a black spot.
So the presupposition...
See a black spot? I mean, see a black spot.
On the photograph they took.
How can you see a black spot?
Well, by the contrast of the light that surrounds it.
We need that quote, Nathan, what a black hole is.
Oh, you mean from Red Dwarf? The thing about space, your basic space colour, is that it's black. The thing about a black hole, your basic black hole colour, the colour of a black hole, is that it's black. How are you supposed to see him?
Well, by the light that surrounds it.
Being sucked in.
Just like the eclipse. The eclipse could, by that standard, also, the sun eclipse could be a black hole moving in front of the sun, and that's why you don't see it.
Who sees these things?
Well, people do see eclipses, right?
No.
Black holes. The same people... The people who see these things are people who have a presupposition, just like the same people who think we have a radius.
I would say they got photographs.
Well, we have an orthographic view of the radius and how it all works.
Into something other than what it is. There's a claim.
See, ballers, it's not that hard to actually bring arguments to the table sometimes. I've got everybody to talk about a supposed theory of astrophysics in some sort of way for like 5 minutes now. See, it's doable.
Yeah, we haven't got to the. I can just cut you right off now if you want. What's the hypothesis? Oh,
Go
there
ahead.
isn't one. So it doesn't answer the question, any viable hypothesis. But I'm still fascinated, right? And I'm more than content to go through this. Because my understanding of what black holes are and a description of having them, a photograph of them to validate the idea that they had of black holes. I want to know more about this photograph. So who's taken it? Where was it taken?
I'd have to Google it.
The Himawari something.
Himawari? Where's the Himawari?
I don't know, but if you're a baller, it helps with the presupposition.
Come on, tell me where the Himawari
I
satellite?
think it's the other side of the firmament.
What? What firmament? Don't mess around with me here. Come on. Don't ruin the point, Adam. I'm using those.
Space?
Space?
The
What's that?
medium is supposed to be existing, yeah.
Sky vacuum. Now that's fake place. If they were taking photographs of black holes from a sky vacuum, then we'd all be dead. So definitely not taking pictures of black holes from sky vacuums. No. If that's where it's claimed to have come from, it's definitely claimed to have come from the Himawari.
Gravitational lensing, Nathan. Hey, everybody.
What now? What's gravity, Neil? It wasn't Neil, it was Brian. Sorry. What's gravity? Gravitational lensing? What's gravity?
It's a fourth dimensional effective acceleration.
Fourth dimensional? What are you babbling about? What?
Yeah, well, it's a fourth dimensional effect of acceleration. It's actually not actually gravity. Gravity is not actually gravity. Technically, it's not. It's just an effective acceleration that has similar qualities to the observer due to things being relative.
I've asked what gravitational lensing is, and you've told me that gravity isn't gravity. I'm totally lost, Brian.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking. I jumped ahead. I thought you were asking what's gravity. Gravitational lensing is where the light from stars bends around black holes, and that's how they know where the black hole is.
Hold on, that's not what you told me a second ago. You told me. Now I'm totally confused. A moment ago it was a fourth dimensional effect. Now you're saying it's something we see in the stars. Do you want to make up your mind? Which one is it?
No. I said, I hope I did say that it is where light from stars bends around a black hole. That's what we're told. No, we don't see any of this.
What?
We
No,
don't see
you're
it
getting it all wrong.
No, I don't know
Brian.
who sees it. I don't know who sees it. I have no idea who sees it. I've never seen anything even remotely like it.
You're getting it all wrong. It's the bending of space-time that causes light to bend, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Part,
It causes the
but
light from stars.
the bending of space-time
That's what I said. The light from stars. I'm not getting it all wrong at all. I'm not getting it all wrong. I said it's the bending of the light from stars.
Okay, so what we've got on screen.
That's not how you see black holes, though. You use event horizon telescopes, Nathan.
I was about to say, I've just got it on screen from Arwin. Thank you very much. And it says on it, Event Horizon Telescope. And it's just a picture of a light in a donut shape.
It's basically, it's not one telescope. They use lots of weaker telescopes at different points around the globe to resolve one image. And that's what they came up with.
It's actually a rendered image based on assembled data. So it's literally a rendered picture. It's a model. It's not actually a photograph. I didn't even know that.
It's a composite. Okay, yeah, I get that from what Adam just said. Okay, so we've got a composite image, fine. Let's just accept that what they've composited together is only capable through composition, and it is actually there and does appear as it looks if you had Superman eyes or something. But I'm going to just take it as read that this is what's been seen, okay? Now, what I see is a light in the shape of a donut. And what I've got from don't know if you gave this or not, Brian, in this show. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. I've had a really, really concise description of what bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space is from Brian. Edit to self. Add edit of Brian giving detailed description if it's not already been done. Anyway, so how does what Arwin's just taken off screen, how does that become what is described in pseudo-Riemannian force space? How does a light in the sky suddenly become what's described in that mathematics? How does that occur? Thank you, Arwin.
It doesn't. It's just they use it to fulfill their presuppositions. All of this is that way on the globe side.
Wait, what? So do I need to describe it again? It's the bending of space-time that causes the light to bend, and it also causes the emergent force of gravity.
Yeah, first of all, what is the
I get
bending of
that.
space-time? You got to prove
Okay.
that.
I get that. Arwin, I'll just repeat it just for you personally. What I'm saying is, your description of a, quote, black hole, good though it may be, mathematically valid though it may be in pseudo force space, how do you get from your description of something like that, and what it is and what it's caused by, to saying this on screen is that? How do you get from that to that? How do you get from A to B? Picture being B, the description being A. How do you get from one to the next?
Well, what else could it be?
That's Arwin, you're out of this conversation. Anybody else?
Belief, Nathan. Belief. They needed to make one up somehow. So they found something that looks kind of like what they think it is. So what they believe it to be. So
I think
they just use that, and they have to go through a painstaking amount of nonsense just to even find that. That's not a real photograph. So they don't even have a real photograph of what they're saying. They just something in the sky that they conjured up through many different telescopes, and they're claiming that is what they've believed is they are for a long time.
I'd go with two words: presuppositional mathematics. It's how they then go there.
Yeah, that
You don't. You don't. That's my answer.
Would you describe what's on screen as a phenomena?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because it's not even real. It's not even real.
Sorry, you weren't here when I prefaced this. I'm sorry, Eli. So we're under the premise that we accept this is what is seen. So just to remove any ambiguity, we'll accept at face value that this is what you would see if your eyes were just a bit better and you could sit and stare at it and blank out the rest of the light or something like that. Let's just pretend that you could achieve this and it is what's seen. Yeah? Now, on that basis... The question is, how'd you get from what you see as a light in the sky to a description of gravitational lensing or anything else that's involved in pseudo-Riemannian force space? How'd you get... Where's the transition from the description in maths and the presuppositions thereafter to that being this photo, if you accept it as a photo, which you have to answer this question?
Is the answer you can't?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
You know what's funny? I was the chat's been jumping at night, the chill lounge, and they always say something to the effect of, "Oh, well, you know, the PDFs that talk about the aircrafts that fly over a non-rotating stationary plane, that's just the simplified version of the complex math." And I was like, can anyone give me a lecture or something where someone is talking about the complex math being broken down into it? Does that exist? The answer was no.
Right.
So it's just like this. Where's the math for this? I don't know.
The light. Just a light in the sky. I'm going to segue from that to something else after reading out Godzilla's super chat. So he says, "Damn, bendy space-time. I sent this super chat 14 million light years ago, and it finally makes it to you." Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Godzilla 37. Really do appreciate your support. Okay, so the next segue. based on the same exact principle of this light and a segue from a description of something, doesn't matter what, to that description being this light, would we all accept that there's a light in the sky that transitions called the ISS, labelled as light known as ISS in the sky, actually visible? Would we all accept that, first of all? Any deniers of that light in the sky is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I've never actually seen it.
You don't have to have seen it to answer the question.
I'd accept that from certain locations it seemed to transit across that point. Whether I would accept that it's in any way going all the way across the plane like we
I'm not asking.
don't
have to expand. Right. I'm not asking for trajectories, presuppositions of orbits, or what is claimed to be that light. We'll get there eventually. That's the point of this. But I just need to have a few people on the panel say, yes, I accept there is a light in the sky that instead of being labelled Mars or Venus, it's labelled ISS. Do we all accept there is actually a light in the sky labelled ISS?
Yes, Nathan.
Anybody want to deny it? That's what I'm looking for.
Well, I haven't seen it.
You don't have to deny it.
But I can't deny it because I don't know if it is actually ever there. But I have never seen it, so I really just should stay out of this because I can't join in on something that I can't say yes, it's there. I haven't seen it though.
You can, because
I can't say it's not there because other people claim to have seen it.
You can say I don't deny its existence. Because if you specifically do deny that there is a light in the sky called the ISS, that's what I want to hear. But if you don't specifically deny it, you can say, I don't deny the existence of that light in the sky, even though I haven't seen it. You can still make that declaration.
I don't personally endorse the existence of that light in the sky.
Okay.
That's the best I can do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to make the same declaration, then makes it a bit more lengthy, but fine, Brian. That's good because it means that other people will have the same view, as Weasley as it was. So, okay. On the same basis that the light we see here, called a, quote, black hole, exists in the sky as a phenomena. Now, when you say, no, it's not a phenomena, well, it's not there all the time. It gets dark and it appears. That's a phenomena. Yeah? Something's occurring. Definitely a phenomena. And the same can be said for the ISS. It's a phenomena. There's a light in the sky, right? Now, how do you get, in the same way you can't get from a description in pseudo-4 space to this light in the sky, how do you get the same exact transition from men on high wire on an obvious set in a film studio to assert that that is that light in the sky? How do you draw the connection other than the name of the stage show being, coincidentally, ISS stage show by NASA versus light labelled ISS in sky? And the point is, you can't, in the same way as you can't get from a just so story in pseudo-4 space to be this light in the sky. I've got a description of a black hole. This looks like a hole shape, therefore my description of a black hole is this light in the sky. Likewise, their stage show with men on high wire has no bearing whatsoever on the light you see in the sky. They connect them. That doesn't mean they are connected. Anything anyone wants to add on this? We don't normally get into NASA and such like on these shows.
Blue screen, blue screen, blue screen.
Well, I actually will add something, actually.
Go on, Brian.
I hope it's on topic enough, but I can take videos of people in my kitchen or wherever, and the video could be whatever length, right? But my camera, and when I put them into the computer or do whatever with them, they won't have people disappearing and glitching in and out and stuff appearing out of nowhere and all this kind of stuff. So when people state that there's just some rendering issues and stuff with the video in the ISS or whatever, to, you know, with people like your man Stingray and all this kind of nonsense that hangs over on hoses, like who's a kind of like works or did work in that kind of area or field. It's like, how come that is the only video that is ever has people or things suddenly appearing or disappearing or glitching in and out. How come that's the only one? Because I see lots of videos daily, and I can make videos myself, and I don't have that effect. Why is that there?
Well, I said it already. Blue screen. What in the world is the need of a background with a blue screen in the ISS if it's where it's supposed to be? Why would you even need that apparatus?
We get there in the end. Where's it supposed to be? The stage show.
In space.
The stage show is supposed to be the light, and the light's claimed to be in a sky vacuum, right?
Yep.
So we do have the light, but we don't have the sky vacuum. And the stage show on Highwire is set in a sky vacuum. That's its location. Like a sitcom has a particular house that the family are in. Well, the house that the family are in the ISS stage show is in a sky vacuum. And the light we see isn't.
I agree with that. Even though I don't see the light.
So, yeah, they would say it's data that's, it's not even the photograph. So, yeah, I don't see the light either. And I don't see data when I look up in the sky either.
So in conclusion, the reason we very rarely discuss high wires, blue screens, fake smoke, pyrotechnics, scale models, what else do they use? Stop motion animation, what are the techniques? You name it, man. Every technique in the book. I'll use Dilly Gill's words. NASA are on the cutting edge of cinematography. Now, when people highlight the flaws and things, well, they often will play their cards relatively close to their chest, but it doesn't mean that they're not on the edge of cinematography, the cutting edge of cinematography, I should say. They are. They've always been ahead of the curve in that regard and employing the best cinematographers and have access to the best quality equipment. You know, they are spending the money on something, and it's the equipment to fake and dupe a place that isn't real, and that place stands in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. This is the point. So when you look up at a light in the sky and they say, well, we've got men on that, well, the men that are on the set of the ISS are claimed to be, in their little sitcom, because that's what it is to me now, just a comedy, they're claimed to be in a vacuum. Now, why the comedy of errors has persisted, you know, they used to, or I don't know if there was a transition period, but to take it seriously. Now they don't seem to take it seriously. Now it seems to be a comedy of errors. You know, it's almost like they're trying to get people to notice. That's how bad it seems to be. Maybe it's because I'm mostly exposed to the errors only, and I'm not watching thousands of hours of boring NASA footage. Instead, it's the people who are keen-eyed and out there and looking and going. For most recent example, Scott Moreau shared a link with me where a couple of flat Earth YouTubers are highlighting the fact that in a recent, apparently live, televised broadcast, one of them's holding a globe that's blown up and he drops it. And then they all go to try and pick it up, but because they're all attached to a bloody trapeze, none of them can get far enough to pick the damn thing up. You know, it's just laughable now. But there we go. That's, like I say, the reason we don't typically discuss the fakery of NASA, and it's obvious, and it's one of the few categories of this subject where we can just label people liars. They say they've been to a place called space, meaning a sky vacuum. They are instantaneously liars. They haven't. They haven't been to a place that violates natural law. They haven't been to heaven. And in that religion, that's heliocentrism, that's their heaven. And these men go there. Well, no, they don't. It's a complete lie. But we don't have the arguments about blue screen because it's a violation of natural law. That's where the argument ends on this particular show. In case any audience members were going, why don't they ever talk about NASA? You know, mostly for newbies. Well, we've got proof, right? We've got pictures of it. No, you haven't. Every picture ever claimed to have been taken of the Earth from space was taken from a place that doesn't exist. We'd all be dead. The gas we breathe would fill that area in line with natural law.
Nathan, it has to be this way, like a sitcom, or the ratings would go down.
Like I say, I don't know why it's become a comedy of errors.
Well, I would be kind of behind you. What you be thinking, Nathan, is that they're kind of nearly trying to expose people to the actual nonsense, the lie of the whole thing, or they just don't need to put much effort in because it's easier just give people slapstick and nonsense, and just claim they're doing science because nobody knows what science is. So behind the scenes, people think when they're not on camera playing banjos or whatever they do, that they're doing loads of science.
I see. So you're saying that's kind of a very negative view on humanity, if you will. You're saying basically it's reached the point where society is so dumbed down that no one's ever going to know. So why bother around? Why bother making any effort? Just slap it out there and don't matter. People are so dumb. That's what you're basically saying.
Well, people have got, sorry, Tim, just a second. People have kind of got to the point of just accepting anything they're given. So NASA, from NASA's standpoint, if I was them, maybe like doing what they're doing would definitely be a viable option for me, because whether I intended on kind of exposing the nonsense to the public and waking the public up slowly, or I intend on keeping them within the lie, it would work both ways, because I could keep them within the lie, because it's easier to show them nonsense because they just accept it anyway, than have to be making up something that's supposedly science, that some scientists can go, well, that's not really how it should work. You know what I mean? They don't want that. They want someone playing the banjo in a gorilla costume. You know, it's easier. Whether they're trying to expose people to the lie or just keep people within it, it's easier. They don't have some scientist going, well, some guy going, well, I don't have the mathematics for that. That doesn't need to work out. They don't want that from some guy in the university in Colorado. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, Ted.
No, I was going to say, when you get 53 million or maybe 59 million latest numbers a day, and you realize the population's mostly sheep, hey, you know, let's not get too much money on the props and all this stuff. Let's just do this little bit, and we get to keep more of the money for other things.
But people already believe they're up there, right? So they already believe they're in space. So all they have to do is try and look after their, if they're actually trying at all they have to do is try and look after their video, you know, and their video editing. I mean, they don't do much of a job of that, so I don't know. It just
when I see them dressed up in costumes like the gorilla suit, and they're chasing each other, making comedic videos, and all the nonsense of slapstick, it's over for me right there. I mean, talk about fake.
When you know it's in a fake place, it becomes a pantomime. It becomes a complete joke.
Well,
it could be in a simulation.
They have the live, quote unquote, broadcast with school children, and I mean, it is so obvious what they're doing. Lying. That's what they're doing, lying.
Well, Neil's just made an apology.
That's the audience, isn't it? Children.
Yes, predominantly. Adults just don't get exposed to it. You'll get the headlines with a reporter telling you, and then a very short clip of mainstream news. But predominantly, the hours and hours of footage go out to children. That's great.
Why would they lie?
So, I mean, one of the absurdities that I can't get out of my mind is they said, you can still Google this, that Comet Neowise was 63 million miles away, but 3 miles in diameter. It's like, what? They didn't say that. They don't, because at that point, how could you not think that they want people to know that they're BSing them? So Comet Neowise was viewable with the naked eye at a certain time every day. And it's supposed to be 63 million miles away and 3 miles wide. Makes no sense.
The religion.
Well, if you had a telescope, you could see far enough. You'd see your rear end, according to them. Same people.
telling people what the sky is the basis for a lot of different religions. You know, it doesn't matter if it's Rakia or Simba having an explanation that the stars are actually lions. They're gods, right? They're lions that have passed away. Well, no, they're giant balls of rock and gas. Or they're angels. Or they're whatever the religion dictates is going to be the story for something that none of us know what it is. Well, that's all it is. Stories, it's a religion. That's what heliocentrism is. That nobody knows what the sky is. Right, well, let's give them an answer. People want answers.
See, you guys forget when we were heliocentrists, we used to listen to the information and go, wow. Wow.
Well, I kind of didn't. When I used to watch Science at NASA, I'd be left with a really empty, hollow feeling. So they'd show you a load of images. They'd put in the bottom right-hand corner that they were visualizations or CGI. They'd tell you overtly. And as an adult, I was always like very underwhelmed and disappointed and left with a kind of empty, hollow feeling. And, well, they didn't show us anything again. You know, it didn't leave me going, wow, when Science at NASA presented their information. Not at all.
Well, I thought it was science.
I lost all interest in him a long time ago, before 2015, when it became flat earth. I lost interest in him years before that, because they were obviously hiding something. I didn't know what it was at the time. Now I didn't know, but I didn't know what it was. But they were obviously hiding something, and they were only pumping out a load of nonsense. It was very, as you said, Nathan, empty. There was nothing in it. It was just like they weren't doing anything or showing anything that mattered. They just claimed to be doing science, and that was it. There was no detail to anything, and they were. I remember when the iPhone 5 came out, that they still had black and white video, grainy black and white video, even though there was an iPhone 5 out that could take video totally fine, and they still had a grainy black and white video. So, you know, it was like they didn't change to having color video. I don't remember them having color video way back, kind of prior to 2012. You know, so.
But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
That definitely are.
Well, yeah, all you see with all I see is ballers complaining about the show. All they do is complain about the show, you know, and you know, make up nonsense that's not true about the show, and about Nathan, whatever they have to do, just to allow themselves to not have to address what's talked about on the show, you know, or what questions are asked on the show. You have to do that.
Yeah, it's called deflection.
Yeah, it's psychological avoidance, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah, it's forget the argument and the validity of it. I don't like the tone of voice, or I don't like that I wasn't given another 5 seconds, or you know, all these other excuses.
Well, they complain about like that they get shut down and you'll get muted and stuff like that. You won't be given time. But that's not true. Nathan gives them the time to make that point, but then he doesn't allow them to continue to make a point that's obviously been rebutted, and continue to make that point and avoid the rebuttal, and or even after it's been shown to be completely faulty or false, to continue to make it as if it's not. You know, it's like, or to go further down the road of begging the question. It's like, you know, or begging the question at all. They say they don't want to address any of these things. So they have to say, well, we don't get a fair shot on Nathan's. It's like, it's not that you don't get a fair shot. Nathan gives you a fair shot the minute you come in to make a claim. But after that, it's your lack of honesty that causes the problem afterwards.
Your
He
premise
just pulls them up on their first fallacy, and because that happens so early on in the piece, they never get to go where they want to go because they're held to task on their first fallacy and not allowed to go further from there, and they don't like it.
Yeah, that's true, man.
Took the words out of my mouth. Good summary.
Yeah, in their mind, if they'd have got to make the point, beg the question in the first breath, and then 5 minutes after a lengthy, convoluted explanation, everyone forgets that they begged the question in the first, second, and first breath that the person gave them the explanation. If that got to the point where they could do that, then they'd win. Like, so what you object to is me pointing out that the first thing you've done is assume the very thing you're trying to prove, as an example. And therefore, you haven't had a chance
Yeah,
to
but hear me out, nonetheless.
Yeah, but anyway, I want to beg the question and then get to the end of my explanation with you all assuming the outcome I'm trying to prove here. No, you're not allowed to do that. Well, that's unfair. If I'd have only had 5 more minutes.
Yeah, because they have plenty of
But let me
detail.
explain myself. Let me explain why I'm making this fallacy.
You've got it.
Yeah, but they have plenty of detail for after they get to beg the question to go along with whatever. They have tons and tons of mathematics and detail after they get to beg the question. But they have to step outside reality first, and they're hoping you'll do it with them. I had a well-known, I'm not going to say his name, but I had a well-known bowler at the weekend basically saying, why don't we just beg the question for a while? It's like, no, we won't. It's that ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what they do. They beg you to beg the question with them. And if you don't or refuse, they just ignore your justification and say, yeah, but if we only beg the question together, I could get to the end of my proof, see? And we'd all have begged the question, and therefore what I claimed when I affirmed the consequent proved my point when I begged the question. We'd all understand that, and you'd look very silly, and I'd get to call you a silly flat earther. That's their overall game plan.
And they claim that that's how they do science. And that if you don't let them beg the question, then they can't do science anymore. That's how they redefine science. To let them do that kind of crap.
Well, they say that it's very rigid, and whenever someone says that to me, I say, well, it depends on the question you're asking. If you're asking what causes an effect, I mean, this is the only method that I know of to establish the cause and effect relationship. If you're talking about something else, go have fun.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually, you talk about the scientific method, basically. Because they want to attack the scientific method really what they're doing is they're attacking QE and calling it QE's method and blah, blah, blah. But they're missing the whole premise, right, is that you have a method for finding out a cause to an effect. Something that will give you definite answers and not more questions. So they start coming up with their own convoluted versions of it. And then you point out where their versions are no good, because their version won't lead you to anything definite. I mean, you'll have areas that that have not been. You'll have things within what they're trying to do that will not bring you to anywhere definite. It won't be empirical. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, Brian,
process. Go on,
Brian, how did QE precede the scientific method? How old is QE?
Well, he's not old. Like, it was around a long time before him.
Right. So how could it be QE's method since he didn't precede the scientific method? It's not the QE method.
No, but that's what they say. This is what they have to do, you see, because they want a method that allows them to not have a definite answer, to get to something that isn't empirical. They don't want empirical answers. They want an answer that they can change somewhere down the road, or could be changed somewhere down the road, because they want to believe that science is always changing. You know, this kind of rubbish. Where's the truth?
Yeah, if they had the truth for their heliocentric belief, it would be very narrow. It would be absolute. It would everything else would pale, because by virtue, truth has to be opposite of falsehood. So here they come with their heliocentric model. They can't survive on the narrowness of truth or the scientific method on the claims they make. So, of course, they have to cry foul, call it QE's method, and figure out another way where they have a little bit more liberty to, do math and call it science.
Because
I was just going to say it's also just an ad hom fallacy. So they take it away from the argument that's being made, whatever the claim that's being made, that's being taken apart based on its lack of scientific validity, and call it QE's claim of science, therefore invalid, because all they ever do is attack the individual. Because that way, anybody who's watching from the sideline thinks, well, if I make a positive assertion in any regard, or try and decry any of the current heliocentric religious belief, I'll be attacked in the way that everyone else is attacked personally as an individual. So that's
let's take the black swan, for example. It's geometry to their assertion we live on a globe with a radius of 3959. Now, nothing can be more fair than to do the modus tollens and say, if we live on a sphere with a radius of 3959, and then to continue on and give it different observer heights, the horizon can be no further than, so a limitation based on the fact that we're on a sphere with a radius of 3959. Well, there's nothing wrong with that if we want to test it. But when we do, it destroys the radius and their sphere, and they don't like that.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want to test it. Somewhat. I had a well-known baller say right to me in the past 24 hours that we're testing a model, and he was speaking about two different models without stating it. And I went, no, you're begging the question and testing a model. I'm talking about reality. This kind of thing. They always have to. You have to somehow make everything fit. They have to make things fit what they believe it's supposed to be according to the model they believe in. And any real testing of that model that falsifies it, they have to state that, which includes the scientific method, because that's real science, as opposed to the science that they claim is real science that backs up their model. So they have to character assassinate anybody or anything, and misrepresent anybody and anything that exposes actual truth. Because they have to live in a place that isn't real and isn't true.
Doesn't Chocolate, when he quotes Michio Kaku saying, nobody in my field uses the scientific method. Well, I wonder why. Because it would prove you wrong.
Well, they
You can't even apply. You can't even apply.
Oh, you got to get it right. You got to do like Chocolate uses.
But my whole point is to make it clear to the audience that the scientific method was fine as long as you don't ascribe it to their model.
But see, they think that QE is saying that you must use scientific method for absolutely everything, but it can't be used for everything. But they miss the point of the cause and effect relationship. It's about cause and effect. You're looking for a natural cause to a naturally observed effect in nature. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, but
and
listen,
they like to convolute it and mess around and say things are effects down and off. And
no, it's worse. It's worse than that. Let me say it this way: the optics, meaning the way they want people to view things, like the false news stories versus what they don't want you to know. So here goes. It's science. Do this. Science, baby. Science is back. It's scientific. It's science. Okay, every time they say that, the population says someone took the time to vet this thing out and it's bulletproof. It's science. Now we get the ballers. Guess what? What do they say about science? Doesn't prove anything. I mean, you can have a stronger contrast than those two. They throw the word out every time it's convenient so they could put on that white lab coat and look official. And then when we put on that lab coat and say, well, let's test some of your model that you say is reality. Oh, no, science doesn't prove things. Well, how come it proves things over here but doesn't prove things over here? Rather convenient.
Well, it's easier for them to, when they throw out the word science, let's say Neil deGrasse Tyson or something throws out the word science, that straight away involves, in an everyday general person's mind, something that's a big deal. A load of stuff that's mathematical and other things they wouldn't understand because they don't have the education or knowledge or experience. So consequently, they just accept it when someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson says something is science, that it is, right? But then simultaneously, they'll throw out how science doesn't prove anything. Now, QE always makes the point, but that, like, obviously they say that they actually say, or they did used to say, science only disproves things. And obviously QE makes the point, yeah, but disproving is proving, right? And the actual truth is they just disprove more things than prove when it comes to cause and effect, because they might have to go through 2 or 3 different things before they find the actual cause to an effect, let's just say. But the thing about it is that they kind of they throw out science, which is a scary word, which makes people go, oh, I don't know about that. You can deal with that. You're the smart people. And then they say science doesn't prove anything. So, which is kind of character assassinating science. And allowing them to use the word to within their model and within their belief. It doesn't prove that, so it's all up in the air.
Give them a way out when
but whatever
wrong.
we say, go on, Rams.
It's the equivalent of identity theft, but killing the original person when you take over their identity. So they've stolen the identity of science, science being an empirical method. And when they say that word that they've stolen, they mean it that way. We have got science, meaning to the audience member who hears it, this means what I say is empirical and you'll accept it as fact. Science. However, when challenged with the scientific method and its empirical nature, and applying that yardstick to their claim they've demanded you accept as empirical because they've said science, they'll tell you science doesn't prove anything, but caveat it by saying it only disproves things, which is a contradiction in terms. By virtue of, if you disprove something, you prove something. You prove it's not that. If you're invalidating it as the cause of an effect, for example, it's the reason why the scientific method's empirical. It has a null and an alternative. If A, then B, being the alternative. If A, not B, being the null. And at the end of the process, one or other is validated. In other words, if you prove it's not your assumed cause, you validate your null hypothesis. Both have got an empirical outcome. If you perform the method correctly and have a viable hypothesis, that would be to say that you've got a phenomena to observe in the first place and a valid cause of the effect, which is varied to cause it. That's a validated experiment. Well, you then disprove your null hypothesis and validate your alternative. And what Brian has explained is, more often than not, you validate your null. You think you've got the cause, you wiggle it, you vary it, it doesn't cause the effect, so you validate your null, if A, not B. So you vary A, and it doesn't cause B. But you've proven it's not that. So you've, by virtue of that empirical method, proven things. The problem comes when you've used that word that you've stolen, identity theft in this analogy. Well, the problem comes when someone says, well, the originator of that particular word you're using implies empiricism through way of experimentation. Do you have that? Science doesn't prove anything. Yeah, it does. That's what it's for. It's to validate the cause of an effect, and you're asserting a causal relationship. Have you validated it through experiment? Science doesn't prove anything, it only disproves anything. It's their only rebuttal, and it's a nonsensical rebuttal if you understand what science is. Then you end up, which is where this started, with decrying the individual. You can't decry the method, because it's very well established. It's benefited humanity greatly. So you instead attack the man. It's QE's method that we're going to attack. So it's not attacking the method anymore because you'll lose on that front, but you can attack the man. So that's what they do.
Well, that's what I meant before. I'm not talking about videos or pictures. I just trusted science. When I heard something, they said it's science, it would just blew me away.
Magic trick.
I had a trust in it. Yeah.
It's a magic trick. I'll give you an example. So I've been watching behavioural science videos recently, and one of the guys in that particular arena is called Dr. Grande, and he likes to assess various different court cases and criminology, etc., etc. But he's studying body language and psychology and various things like that, all of which are pseudoscience. But he describes his podcast as a scientifically informed podcast, and has even, and I'll quote him, said, "As a scientist, I'm not interested in X, Y, and Z." In fact, I'll tell you what the X, Y, and Z was just to contextualize it. So he's saying that in a courtroom, when the police give an opinion on whether or not someone reacted correctly when they're suspected of a murder for the sake of argument, is completely moot because they're not trained in psychological evaluation. So for him, as a scientist, and I quote, it's not interesting to him what a policeman thinks about someone's frame of mind based on their demeanour at the scene of a crime. It's irrelevant. Because they're not a scientist? So you are? No, you're not. You're not studying cause and effect relationships and validating their cause by way of systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis. He's not a scientist. Psychology is a pseudoscience. But yet he'll demean things like fingerprint analysis or various other, what was the one he decried recently? The polygraph. And say, that's pseudoscience. So what are you talking about? Every word that comes out of your mouth has not been validated by way of systematic experimentation. You're calling yourself a scientist. Therefore, look up the definition of science, pseudoscience, and you'll see that where a claim of science is made and there hasn't been an experiment, it is therefore pseudoscience. Now, the polygraph, so long as nobody's putting their hand up and saying, this is a science, which they probably are at some stage, so long as they're not doing that, and we'll work on the assumption no one says a polygraph's scientific, then you can't call it pseudoscience. It's just what it is. It's a polygraph. It's reading these things. It's reading sweat. It's reading pulse.
Forensic science.
Another caveat for science, right? Like computer science. You know what I mean? Anyway, my point is
social science.
My point is it's a magic word. And if you've got a pseudoscience like psychology and you want to make yourself more valid than PC Plod, you call yourself a scientist, which is precisely what Dr. Grande did.
He attacked flat out, actually, a man, Dr. Grande. He did a psychological profile of some kind.
Great.
Speaking of science, Sleeping Warrior is on, and he did an egg test, I recall.
What was that? I heard my name. What was that?
We're talking about science, and I remember you did the egg experiment quite well.
Oh yeah, I demonstrated how objects accelerate on Earth by manipulating the presumed cause, the density of the medium, and acceleration was observed. We could measure it, we could calculate it, but most importantly, we can manipulate it.
And we can reproduce it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very powerful method.
And afterwards, using the egg, you could even eat it.
Moot. But nevertheless, correct.
Yeah, it's funny because like every ball earther ever changes the cause in that test. I always say, you do know what the definition of the independent variable is, right? And they always change it from adding the salt to a gravitational pull from the center of the Earth. It's outrageous.
Well, you do say that you're increasing the mass, so that may help them. No offense.
How did they measure the center of the Earth?
They still change it to the thing that was. I always say to them, well, what made gravity decide to pull on the medium rather than the mass? Because I thought it was mass attracts mass, not mass attracts mediums. they don't really have an explanation for that.
Yeah, 106 years out of date, this stuff. Mass doesn't attract mass.
You can calculate that it does.
But it doesn't.
To the center of mass.
Does gas have mass in their estimations of what mass is, Anthony?
Yeah.
Does mass attract other mass when it's a gaseous particle, or does it bounce off and repel?
In the model, it attracts.
In reality, does it bounce off and repel?
Yeah, in reality, it has no direction. It bounces off in all directions randomly and indiscriminately.
So not only not attracting other particles of gas, but also repelling the very dense claimed to be centre of mass at the centre of Earth when presupposed to be a sphere. So both repelling that and each other, all simultaneously debunking the notion that mass attracts mass. It does not.
It's funny because I was in a channel that had 800,000 subs, and obviously he's got the name Science in his name. And I was arguing with him, telling him that he's misrepresented what gravity actually is. He had two bouncy balls, like molecules, bouncing off each other. So they were going towards each other, bouncing away from each other with perfectly elastic collisions. And then they were going the opposite direction. They'd then slow to a stop, then come back towards each other. And it was a bit like testicles bouncing off each other all the time, continuously bouncing. And I tried to point out to him that gas molecules don't behave like that. I said, the only time they can behave like that is if a force is involved. And obviously gravity is not a force. So what force would you be applying here? Could you name it? And I got blocked for trolling.
Don't challenge their
that's right, Dave.
Well, it's nice. It's nice to know next time I cook and add salt, it's the gravitational pull from the center of the Earth adding the salt.
Yeah, but it isn't. When you challenge their rhetoric, which stands in violation of a natural law, they'll block you, is what Anthony's saying.
Oh, yeah. Because he calls it trolling, even though I'm trying to correct him. I was explaining that, like, if mass did attract mass, like gas molecules, the way he says, that would be a reduction in entropy. And for that to happen, you would need to be putting energy into it. It can't happen all by itself. Because if things are clumping together like coagulated blood, but in the form of gas molecules, that is a reduction in entropy. And you can't have that in the first law of thermodynamics. And I was trying to correct him and point it out to him, and he just didn't like it.
Well, it's become okay to block, dismiss, or handwave flat earthers. That has become the norm. If you go back to, I don't remember who it was, but somebody pretended they wanted to talk to a scientist, and they started asking the scientist a lot of questions. It's like an hour-long, interview. And the scientist then found out that he was a flat earther and didn't want to talk to him.
Mark Knight, wakey, correct.
Well, yeah, wakey.
Perfectly civilized interview with the astrophysicist conceding some fairly poignant points. Oh, that's interesting. I'd never considered it that way. Until she found out he was a flat earther. Then she felt very cheated and wronged. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if the same scenario was that he asked her all those questions and then turned around at the end and said, "I'm a Sikh," and she said, "What? You're a Sikh?" Oh, well, then that's absolutely abhorrent that you could come and ask all these questions based on the fact that I now find out you're a Sikh.
Yeah, because they're okay to hand wave us away. They've given themselves permission to block us, hand wave us, ignore us.
Precisely.
So even back then, which is 2 or 3 years ago now, I think, 2 years ago anyway, he had to go through that effort, those channels, just to get to talk to someone like that. Back then. Now they just like block us. It's okay to block us. So we tell them the truth about their own model, and it's okay to block us. You know, regardless of who they are. Dr. Becky won't address 10th man whatsoever. You know, I've had loads of people who I've commented to with our videos and stuff online, and I've even emailed them, and they won't give me any address whatsoever. Who are PhDs, astrophysicists, and different things like that.
Yeah, and it's been trained into people. You know, that is the natural reaction. And as I say, as a normal person, if you segregate yourself into a particular faction of society for whatever reason, there should be no reason to suddenly change your opinion on the framework of a question that you've been asked because it suddenly has less validity based on your association with the group. Now, in any other section of society, that would not be tolerated. In Flat Earth, it's encouraged.
Well, it's happening all around us, and we started the pre-show with it. The government office, quote unquote, Ministry of Truth, must comply with what we say things are. You know, be careful out there, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot of misinformation on the internet, and we're going to block these people for your sake, because they're affecting all the indoctrination we had from kindergarten up to now with you. So please don't listen to these people.
It's the guy with the swag bag again. Guy with a swag bag and a black mask says, "Look out, there's burglars around."
Yeah. You say something, Anthony?
Said, "Stay vigilant."
Yeah. I just wanted to change topics slightly. Has anybody seen the film Jesus of Nazareth?
Yeah.
There's a scene in it where he's carrying his own cross to his own crucifixion, and it's like the humiliation of carrying your own, what's the word? Your own burden or your own thing, it's like digging your own grave kind of thing, isn't it? Someone sent me a link of a certain person. I'm not going to name his name, but you all know who I mean. And he's basically doing the rounds on the walk of shame, and he's carrying his cross through the streets like Jesus of Nazareth.
The only
And
person
to
I can
watch
think
him
of,
talking to these people, it's like, oh my God, what
the only
on
person
earth
I can
going
think
on?
of that fits that description would be Sean Hufford. Huffraud.
Well, yeah, there's somebody else on our side, though, that's recently departed, and he's essentially carrying his own cross down the streets like Jesus did in Jesus of Nazareth.
I like
It's
the way you
awful.
turn the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, a very important story in the Bible, into a scene in a movie.
What?
That scene is a videographed presentation of a story from the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've demeaned it to it being a movie, though. Just for the offence of every Christian out there listening. Just
No,
I'd
I'm on about
mention
the movie, the actual visual scene in that movie, the 1980s or late 70s movie.
Yeah, I
I'm
know
on
which
about that
movie.
scene where,
It's the crucifixion scene.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm on about.
But that it's a scene in a movie that is literally the story of the crucifixion.
I know. I'm not making that point. Stop changing my point. My point is that there's definite comparisons with our recently departed friend. It's just awful.
Who died? Recently departed? My God, who's died?
Yeah. we don't need to. Well, we don't need to say his name, do we?
I don't care.
No, don't
Who
get
are you talking
cross
about? Are
with
you talking
us,
about
Matt.
Ranty?
Don't worry about it.
Because we're always looking for evidence of R, right?
You talking about Ranty or Sean Hufford?
Yes, Ranty.
Ranty.
So what are you saying in English, Anthony? Just say it in English. What's he doing?
Well, but he's doing the walk of shame, isn't he? He's on Planner Walk, he's on Fight the Flat Earth, he's on this channel, that channel, the other channel, and I never watch any of it. I just see the snippets.
Hold on, Witcher's debating him.
Yeah, he's
Well, that's a
supposedly
lot.
Saturday, I think.
Saturday coming.
Hold on. He's doing the
Yeah, I
walk of
believe
shame. He's
so.
on all of our opponents' channels kissing ass, right?
It's just sad to see like our friend dragging his own crucifix through the streets like Jesus of Nazareth did in that movie that was depicting one of the most biblical scenes ever, because that's what our recently departed is actually doing right now, and it's just sad to see.
So you're equating. Hang on. So you're equating this going from show to show to show as equal to carrying the cross to your death?
Yeah, I don't see the parallel either. I'm sorry, Anthony.
Yeah, I don't get the comparison, but I get what you're saying about going from show to show to show, but it's got to be a better name for that.
If I was going to do a movie link with it, I think the analogy I think of is.
Part of it.
Sorry, Neil. Well,
sorry, Neil. You interrupted.
Sorry, I cut you off, Adam. I'm working. It's the shame. Anthony's trying to get at the shame. Jesus was shamed, and Anthony's walking around with his cross, ashamed.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making.
The movie scene I'd probably more liken it to would be Jodie Foster on a pinball machine.
Well, that I've never even heard of that movie.
No, that's
Have to
lost
see.
altogether.
See, everyone knows my scene, Meek, and no one knows the one that you're
I
citing.
know, but when
Great
you
reference.
get mine,
Great reference. Movie no one's heard of, that you haven't given the title of, that you've named a scene that nobody understands. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Great
well.
analogy.
I
Is it
forgot.
Silence
You
of
know
the
when
Lambs?
something disappears?
Are you going to now say this is a Mandela movie that doesn't exist anymore? How much more convoluted do you want
I'm
to
going
make
to
it?
the internet now. Right there.
Okay, Adam,
Well,
don't worry.
The
It's somewhere in the
Accused.
black hole. You'll find it.
The Accused.
Let me
The
put it
film's
in a
called The
different way.
Accused.
The Accused.
I know some people are saying that there's a better equivalent scene, but let me put it this way. To Ranty, it's like walking down the street with the crucifix, because from the perspective he used to hold, he's obviously that part of him's now dying, isn't it? He's getting to the end of that journey, right? But to us, watching it, it's more like a scene out of what's it, Life of Brian, where they're all in the Colosseum and they're all talking about what the names of the different Judas and all that is. That's more like what we're seeing it as.
Well, to me, it's more. Look, it's self pity.
Yeah.
That is completely unwarranted. That's the way I view it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Neil, let me ask Neil. You cited Bob for saying that Ranty didn't have anywhere else to go, and I asked where was that citation from? Was that recent or was that historic? You never got back to me.
Globebusters.
Oh, this week's
Sunday.
Globebusters. Right.
Yeah, Bob said it. Bob said he got kicked out of the Nathan Oakley Club or the Flat Earth Debate Club. They
He
kicked
left.
him out.
No,
Yeah.
no. He never got kicked. He left.
I know. I'm telling you what Bob Nodell
I'm saying
said.
it for the audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's an audience. Yes.
Yeah, so let's just correct the record for the purpose of Bob. Ranty didn't get kicked. Ranty left on his own accord. Bob?
I witnessed it.
We all did.
I know. So that's he's lying. If he said he got kicked, he's lying.
Well, he's trying to get Ranty into the victim status, but I don't know why he's still backing that horse, to be honest.
He went up and set up a competing show and started broadcasting at a very similar time to me. So, I would hardly say I kicked him out. In fact, I offered every encouragement. And when people tried to poo-poo him, I discouraged and dissuaded them from doing so and offered my best wishes to him in every regard. So none of that's true. Sorry, whoever.
That's
Bob,
why I
you say?
remember every bit of that, Nathan.
Why is Bob claiming that we kicked him out? I don't understand.
Because
He's
that's
trying
the
to make
story
him into
Bob
a man.
heard. No, I think that's just Bobby. Sorry, Anthony. I think that's just Bob going by with the story he just heard. Like that's the story that he's been told, and I don't know who the source of it is.
No. He's trying to vilify us, right? But in doing so, he victimizes Ranty, which obviously Ranty's going to love it. He's going to love that. But he's just being ignorant.
Yes, that's correct, Anthony. What
What
you
are we
want to
talking
do
about?
is go get Globebusters. The first 15 minutes he talks about it, you'll see.
Didn't I build his whole
think that's the
OBS
case,
show
guys.
setup for him?
Yeah, but none of that matters anymore, Adam. That's just water under the bridge.
Dude, he gave me a camera once.
Sorry.
Then as soon as I got it, he bullied me every day about it for like months.
Alden, we'll get to you in a second with your camera, Owen. Adam, what did you say? I know it was poo-poo
still have it.
Anthony, but what did you just say?
So I'm pretty sure I went to great lengths to build him his whole show intro and OBS setup for him to run his new show from.
And I went to great lengths to build him the PC that he played the show on. And obviously, how many times did we support him with things that he may or may not have been right on, but generally support the guy all the time? Don't really see how we could be the demons there, guys.
As I remember it,
we were brothers in the beginning, but he was just turned to the dark side. It slipped in. We were very outreaching to him. He seemed very outreaching to us, and then he kind of lost interest, or the disagreements he had of his internal stuff just made him deflect. Go away.
I remember there was an argument where he made a fool of himself and took on QA on points of science.
Correct.
And ended up looking a bit of a daft bugger. I think I gave him a private heads up. I know other people did that. He was wrong and tried to explain to him why, and carried on and ended up looking daft and then kind of stormed off, as I remember.
It was about Lite from memory, was it not?
Yeah, just to support what Adam's saying, Ranty did come to me and he did ask me, he said, listen, I want to go against Quantum Eraser on Lite. And I said, listen, if you're going to go against Quantum Eraser on Lite, you better have something to trump his 3 pieces of evidence that he cites. What was it? Compton scattering, Heisenberg uncertainty principle, and the photoelectric effect from Einstein. I said, I don't agree with John on Lite. I think it's nonsense to claim that the light can be a massless particle. However, he's got better evidence than me and I've got nothing to touch it. And I said to him, if you go against John on that, you will lose. I said, do not do it. What did he do? He did it. What did he do after that? He lost his temper.
Nobody rejected him as... Adam, there's more to it. Nobody rejected him as a consequence of a disagreement. That they happen all the time. They've happened today between me and Neil. Does that mean that suddenly Neil's an outcast? No. Far from it.
No, it means you are, Nathan.
Those sorts of disagreements happen all the time. However, at that particular moment, that was Ranty's excuse, as I saw it, to distance himself from us, not the other way around.
Correct. And he totally switched attitudes after that point. Like, he wasn't the same guy by his own decision, because he thought that he had a grudge against this whole thing. That's when in his mind it started to become a cult where he could not get his view through to everybody else. That's what he thought, and then he just stepped away and started doing all this.
Arwen, did you say on another time that he wanted the camera back after giving it to you freely?
Yeah, immediately after he gave it to me. Thanks. Yeah. Because I didn't thank him, remember? Immediately.
Can I just say as well, do you remember when I said about Black Swan? I said it'll be interesting to see how many people or which people on our side don't support it. I said not by the ones that are supporting it, watch for the ones that are not. Ranty never liked the Black Swan argument for some reason. Don't know why. He just didn't like it. He didn't support it. He just didn't like it. But it's the same with the relative density argument. He didn't like that either. Yeah, it's demonstrably the case that you can repeat it yourself. You can see why objects move on Earth. If there's more to it, science will develop over time and show that. But at the moment, it is the only thing that we can prove demonstrably. But he didn't like that argument either. So it's like, 2 big arguments that we use regular, and Ranty didn't like either of them. Makes you wonder what was his motive.
Yeah, but his motive is very simple. Came after the debacle, right? So he was already kind of turned in his mind.
Yeah. He didn't like the people talking about it. He didn't like you or QE. That's the problem. It's not the argument.
Well, what I can say is for definite, is that for definite, Ranty is now dishonest, because towards the start of my debate with him there a week or so ago, I showed how he's scaling for his model, the scale down model he was trying to make of the photograph was wrong. I showed him how his scaling was out by hundreds of inches, and he never addressed it. He wouldn't accept it. He kept on saying his scaling was perfectly fine.
Brian.
Leave me finish.
No, hang on.
No, let him finish.
Hang on.
Why do you always do that?
Because he did address it on the show. He said after Brian told him he didn't do it right, he said, in a million years, I would never do it right.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is he wouldn't admit that he was wrong. He kept saying he was right. And then he even brought the whole thing out as a video after the presentation. He brought out a video, I haven't watched it, but I brought out a video of the very thing he did on the scaffold. It's like, that is pure dishonesty. I can't, before that, I'm not going to point it out at other things. I don't need to point it out as that has to be pure dishonesty. Only someone that's 100% dishonest will do that.
Ranty's never been a star at admitting mistakes, even minor ones. Like, that really gets to him. Like, even when things were good between us, there was always issues with that. Remember? So
watching the debate with Brian and Ranty, which took over 4 hours, trust me, it was tough. You'd have to be pretty blind, thick, and daft not to see that exchange. Brian held him. Ranty admitted he didn't scale, that he left hundreds and hundreds of inches out, and then said in a million years he would never do it that way, meaning the right way. He just admitted to the whole audience his whole scaling was off, and then acted as if he didn't admit it after admitting he'd never do it in a million years. It was very... I said, what the heck is this guy saying here? He just killed himself.
he jumped on a thing I had with a diagram. I had to move it tower because I put the diagram due to something to do with Google Earth. I won't go into it. Anthony found out what it was. There was a bit of a thing with Google Earth. If you view something back the wrong way or backwards, it doesn't work. It doesn't come out with the correct diagram. But he had me move a piece within a diagram, right? An annotation within a diagram, and then there was he made a big deal out of this where I put the piece he says in the wrong place. But there was a break after that. And then we came back after the break. Then I went through it with him. We hit the piece in the place he wanted it to be. He was right. It was in the right place. Let's just say via the mileage on the diagram or the distance on the diagram. But then I showed him how the pieces were using actual sizes, and if you move back the mountain even a foot, then the line of sight won't intersect with the top of the mountain. He actually admitted to that. He conceded to that, and that's why we ended up moving on, because he conceded that would happen. He conceded to it, right? Once I focused on the actual sizes and their distance between each other on the diagram, because they can only fit in so much on a little diagram, right, to show you. So he conceded that. Now, since then, people have been attacking me over this thing with the diagram and me having the piece in the wrong place. And Ranty's not coming out to address any of it and say, no, Brian was right in what he said. He made a good point, and I conceded. No, nothing. And with it, might think that in the debate he's going to have, that Ranty's going to concede to anything, or that Ranty gets wrong or loses on, that Ranty is going to afterwards go, I was wrong. No, he's not.
He said on the show. He said on the show with you, I scaled everything right. And then he says you caught him on the hundreds and hundreds of inches. He admitted that, and then later said in a million years he wouldn't scale it right. I mean, how can you have it both ways? Come on.
There you go. I mean, there has to be. He's definitely dishonest now. I can't speak about before. I didn't see it with him before, but he's definitely dishonest now. There's no whatever his supposed beliefs are these days. He's definitely dishonest now. He's not anything he says.
He stole money from. Wait a second. He did not give Roxanne the money he promised, and you didn't notice it before?
No, I'm talking about before, when I used to be on his show, and he used to be in here in the.
He was always a shady bastard.
I'm talking about back then.
Why are you
any evidence that Ranty has a drone?
Putts. Say again, QE.
Why are we even discussing Mr. Delusional Putch? He should have been hung from a fucking yard arm 3.5 years ago when I told you that. Why are you even discussing him? He's a putz. He doesn't know dick about anything.
Yes, oh great cult leader, we know. We shall do thou bidding.
Gentlemen, the reason why he's come up is because I saw him on Planner Walk's show doing the Walk of Shame. He's been down Fight the Flat Earth, Planner Walk. He's going to be doing the Walk of Shame on all the Ball Earth channels, right? It reminded me of the scene from Jesus of Nazareth where Christ was carrying his crucifixion cross across the town and everyone was like, the humiliation of him carrying that cross. That's how Randy's having to behave right now. We see it more like Life of Brian in the Colosseum, where we're all giggling over the names, terms, and all that. But Ranty's being tormented by this walk of shame that they're making him do. It's embarrassing.
That's a great analogy, Ranty with Christ. Good one.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Walk of shade, I'd call it.
He's a putz. He has no science acumen whatsoever. He can't work his way out logically of like a preschool bag. He's a putz. Ask him anything in detail. He's a putz. Anything. Yeah, this guy once thought. This guy. Hold on a second. This is who you're dealing with. This guy once thought that the second law of thermodynamics was violated because rushing the atmosphere, higher pressure atmosphere, air wouldn't fill a flat tire. He needs to be horse tranquilized by the authorities right now. Okay? Because he's a putz. And you guys are talking about him like, what's the point?
Well, maybe he already is horse tranquilized. Maybe that's why he's like so.
He's also a terrorist sympathizer because I marked him years ago.
Yeah, but when your tire, right, is at 0, right, there's 14.7 psi around it. Why isn't it just rushing in and filling it up?
That's right.
John, have you heard his latest claim? He claims that he's
No, I
basically
don't
wrote the book
listen
on
to
optics.
him. Why would I listen to him? It would be like Tiger Woods tuning into Elmer Fudd on backswings. Why would he do that?
Because we need to inform our great cult leader of what is going on outside. We can't overprotect you. That's dangerous. That's what he wants.
Stop interrupting John. He's talking
What's
about
that
Elmer
second
Fudd.
jab? Hold on. What's going on, Owen? What's with the jabs? You had 2 jabs at me on the live show, and now you're having 2 jabs at Q. What's with the funny mood you're in? What's going on?
I had a dream. That's why
yeah.
I was overslept.
You had a dream about what? Having a jab at everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I didn't make
But
the
no,
dream.
no, it's probably the trolls in chat, pieces of shit trolls that basically tell me, yeah, people don't really respect you over at the Flat Earth debate. Every time you try to make
shut
some
up,
kind
Arwen,
of a
anyway.
point,
What were
even
you
as
saying,
a devil's
Kiwi?
advocate, people start over talking you. Yeah, just like now.
That was a joke. It
Yeah,
was done
it
for
happens
humorous
every time.
effect. Like someone saying Nathan's so caring and respectful, he gives everyone so much time, and I then interrupt them and tell them to shut up. That's humorous.
Oh, and how can you buy into stupid shit like that? I'm surprised.
I'm not
at you.
buying into it.
Come on.
I'm just testing
Yes, you
it.
are. For even
Because it
saying
happened
that is
again today.
ridiculous.
Same trolls told Ranty
Oh,
that
stop
before he
it.
went to the dark side.
You
I
want
called it
everybody to
then.
bow
We run
down
with
how
each other
smart
all the
you
time
are?
as well.
So I
So
did call it right on the live
Everybody
show then.
feels that way.
That something had changed. I did notice that deviation from your baseline in terms of you being a bit off. Something has triggered you mentally to do something slightly off.
Hey, Nathan, if something's off his baseline, then he's full of trouble.
it's very simple. There is nothing worse than when a really, really shitty troll is actually right about something, right? There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah, but Arwen, a broken clock is correct twice a day. right?
Whoa. You're saying your troll is right? That
Yeah,
we
but a broken
disrespect
clock's
you? Oh,
Yeah,
my
that
God.
implies
Even
a
the
broken
worst
clock.
of trolls can be right sometimes. And when they do, it's usually a sign you got a problem, right?
Bullshit.
And I'm taking that
Arwen,
seriously.
Now you're just fishing
even
for
a
compliments.
broken clock might be right twice a day. Doesn't make it right though.
But a broken clock doesn't type in text in chat, so...
Yeah, but it can be right twice a day. Doesn't mean it's okay.
It's not true.
So, Arwen, what is it that the troll said that you think might be right?
Not getting enough respect. It's just a ploy by trolls to get under Arwen's skin, which he's successfully, and he's honest enough to.
Yeah, and the next
Guys,
day,
hello,
without you mentioning it, it happens.
hello. At least Arwen's actually, what's the word? Self-confident enough to just tell us this. So rather than giving him a ribbing, you should get a bit of kudos to say, well, at least you can just immediately tell us what's brought this on.
Well,
That takes a lot
why
of
does
confidence.
Arwen even think that when he gets respect here all the time?
He's not. He's,
Well,
he's,
because I get it sometimes when everybody's in the mood for it, for complimenting each
touchy.
other, and I do it too, and it's really nice. And then there's moments where just everybody constantly starts halfway interrupting people's sentences, assuming
just
they know
lies.
everything they're gonna say when it isn't true. And it
That's the
happens
key word.
not just me.
Everybody.
You interrupt
Arwen.
each other all the
Hold
time.
on.
Arwen, do you
Keyword is
understand that there's a
everybody.
difference? There's a difference between having a massive monologue and someone over speaking you because you've gone on for too long.
Oh, so now it's wow, that's
Here we
certainly
go.
respectful to say that
Here we
as
go,
an
Anthony.
excuse to start
Just a bit unclear
interrupting
about
somebody in
something,
the middle
so-
of a sentence.
I just need to get a bit of clarity from Arwen because I'm totally lost on this. What do you mean people interrupt each other here? That never happens. What are you on about?
Yeah, it does.
I can't think of a single example.
Well, look, I've been
Every
interrupted.
show.
I've been interrupted, but I don't think what the trolls write down is anything. That's just life. It happens. You got 7, 8 mics, 10 mics open at one time. Give me a break.
Well,
I know.
Arwen, are you fishing for compliments? If you are, I don't mind
No.
telling you how ace I think you are because I do genuinely believe it.
No, I know, and you compliment me, and that's why the suggestion that rolled out of it from the troll is ridiculous. It's preposterous. They're not getting to me, but they were actually making a legitimate point. And that is that just in general conduct, there's not always that much respect in here toward each other. It's just sloppiness, and I don't like it. I've been working a lot on stop interrupting people, stop breaking into pregnant pauses, have like adamantly held myself to it. And then I see everybody else doing it constantly.
This is an
really
attack on
annoying.
Nathan's moderation. Nathan, he's attacking your
Yeah, it's
lack
my
of
bad.
moderation.
I was just thinking that I'm going to keep my mouth well and truly shut because that's entirely my fault.
I was going to say, have you been working on monologues? Because like that might be an area to consider.
God, don't poke him.
Come on, we all get interrupted, Arwin. You're one of the worst for interrupting people at times.
I'm
I'm
guilty.
guilty.
I worked on it a lot, and so should you. Right? Just because everybody else is shitty is not an excuse for you to be shitty as well and feel
Pull
good
the
about
log
it.
out your own eye before you pull the splinter out your
That's
brother's.
exactly. Yeah, stop chucking stones when you're in a glass house, man. Not a good idea.
Wow, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, you're not a special chicken. We're all the same.
Excuse
I'm not
me.
saying I'm a special chicken.
I am. I'm a very, very special snowflake.
Now you're
You
doing
know
it,
what,
Tony.
Arwen? You know
You're
what
doing it.
happens? Do you know
No,
what
no,
happens?
no,
doing
you
anything, I'm
poke at
saying
me at the wrong time because you have no
No.
sense for it. Yeah?
No, no, no.
I
Nathan
don't
asked
bring
what
these
was the issue.
subjects up as a joke, so don't make a fucking joke out of it.
Nathan asked you what the issue was. You explained it, and we're trying to contextualize it.
Making a joke out of it?
He's saying making a
By
joke
making
out of
it
it's
light,
unreasonable.
yes.
That's okay. I get your point. It's been taken on board, Darwin. I accept your point. Because we do, and we have or tried to justify it in the past by saying it's British humour. If you're a good friend of somebody in Britain, you will take the piss out of them.
Yeah.
Same here in Ireland, yeah. You're going to get you're going to get no
Same
sympathy.
in Brooklyn.
No
Same.
sympathy off our friends.
Same in SoCal.
The people I like the most, I break their balls the most.
Yeah.
Sympathy is
Arwen.
boring.
Arwen, in the last 24 hours, I've called both Adam Meakin and John Stunyer grumpy old men. Oh, no, old men, right? Not because they're old men, not because they're grumpy, just because they're friends.
That's
Doesn't
just
mean that it's
disingenuous. They are grumpy old men.
That might be true.
Yeah, but
my point is that we all call each other names.
Arwen, when you say it with a tone of disdain in your voice, then it goes from a gentle ribbing of somebody you're actually, in a male way, showing how much you love them. Yeah, that's true. Whereas when you say it with a tone of disdain, it's actually quite vicious. Yeah, so there's a subtle but very distinct difference in the way that things are said.
Oh, that's just Dutch humor.
Watch the
Well, that
tumbleweed
explains
roll
it all.
by.
The Dutch don't have humor.
Oh, wow.
Maybe
you know that
not
we
humor.
founded New York, right?
God, he's going to pull the race card at this point because the laugh didn't give him. I love it.
I think if you state you found New York, that's the broad way of looking at it.
You're not allowed to pull the race card when Brian's here.
Oh, he said Broadway. Oh,
the nation is
got
not
it.
a race.
We'll sell it back to you real cheap.
Well, now it's too late. It's already become too shitty. We don't want it back.
You can have the governor and the mayor.
Yeah, but the psychology of male interaction, as much as I didn't expect this to be a topic of discussion on this particular show, is fascinating in terms of the potentially perceived abuse that people give when it's males actually showing their affection for one another. It is a bizarre
Shut up, Nathan. Shut up, Nathan.
well, geez, we can't hold
This is just the way we go about in this cult. Okay?
But we can't hold hands
If you're
like
not
women
part of
can.
it, you don't understand.
All right, it's flat
I
earth.
gotta say,
Can I just point out, guys, for everyone's benefit, I've just sent Arwen 2 screenshots. One is where I called John obsessive because he called it me, and the other one is where I called Adam an old man. So it's like, come on, Arwen, it's not actually meant as an insult. It's just humor, like sarcasm at worst. But it's what is it? It's like affectionate. It's a form of endearment.
I would also
Did you
perceive.
do it in the middle of them making a serious complaint about something?
I
Because
perceive
I
it
don't
as
think so. You know, if you just joke around with that, that's fine. And I do it too, but not when somebody's
Oh, and that's the
legitimately
best time.
making a complaint and then people talk right through it again.
I heard it, Arwen. I heard it, and I have taken it on board. I didn't just say that just to move the subject on. And I sense a mild degree of projection in Anthony's insult towards Adam. Feeling a bit old recently, are we? There, Anthony.
I don't know, not really. I'm just not letting
really?
Arwen know that it.
Not really.
don't really know why. Have I missed something? What's going on now?
You're about to turn, or you've just turned 40, haven't you?
No, I turned 40 years ago. Like, what are we in now? I am. I'm 41 in about 6 months.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not the cause, but I'm just saying. I sense a mild amount of projection when you start calling Adam, who's a very similar age to us, old.
No, Adam's definitely no. I was taking the piss out of Adam, saying, "Come on, old man, get these bulbs ordered." But my point is that if I said it in a way that Adam would be offended, I wouldn't say it that way, right? And my point is that Adam didn't take the victim card and say, "That's what I'm saying."
So how can we help
you wouldn't have Adam easy. Sorry, Adam.
So are you saying since the topic was bulbs, he was lighthearted?
I just want to know how we can help Anthony through this troubling time in his life. You know, midlife crisis.
He's a bit out of Meekin.
Oh, by the way, I'd like to say again, like it really is Dutch humor when I said that.
Well,
It's
no,
a
I was
weird
just
thing.
about to respond though. You're talking all over me.
How Darwin. It's just unfair how Arwin behaves around us. I feel quite bullied.
Okay.
Just talking about my age, and you bring it back to you, change the topic, completely ignore what's going off. Just as
I didn't know you wanted to talk about it.
Can you all shut up, please? Hello. Can you all shut up? Adam's feelings are hurt. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, well, it's twice, isn't it? It's twice. Riley did it after a couple of days after I've been called Daddy Pig. So it's just a little sore point.
Oh, did you all see the Darth video?
Yeah.
That was a compliment.
There's a new.
Anyway, on a more serious note, Meekin, have you ordered those bloody bulbs yet?
No, I've had a good look, and I've looked
Darth
at
video was
the
great.
lighter, I think.
Yeah, Neil.
Hold off for that.
Yeah, while they get into their discussions about general maintenance of bulbs, fascinating stuff. Did you see the new Globe Earth Dictate by DADRH?
It's enlightening.
It is hysterical.
It was absolutely brilliant.
Just don't send me back to the reentrainment camp, please.
I've got it on screen now.
My favourite bit was...
I'll just say I was very flattered to be included this time, even though it was as Daddy Pig, which I think was bro.
Daddy Pig was the best.
I will.
By far.
Daddy Pig is awesome.
Included.
I sent Darth a message saying I also do like jumping up and down in muddy puddles. So
Oh, I can't wait till I get included. Then I will have finally made it to the top.
I almost trimmed out that line when I heard it when my kids were watching Peppa Pig. So when I heard him say maths is science, basically, I was like, should I have that? It's just not enough. So to see it padded around a Globe Earth Dictate made me so happy.
So Neil, are you saying you feel really good when you're on the Darth side?
Yes.
Do you know what I really do like about this topic? Do you remember when Beelu came out, the little alien thing, and we all adopted it as our friend and took it away from them, from using it against us? So Beelu became our friend. And then, like, we had numerous other things where, like, for example, thanks Bob came up from the trolls. So we now go around thanking each other. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Meekin. Thanks, everybody, just to wind them up. I love how we adopt their stuff to take it away from them.
A lot of that goes on in this debate, isn't there? We are seeing their weapons strewn around the battlefield, and we just pick them up and use them against them.
I know how to fix cutting each other off, and somebody suggested at one time that we should say over when we're done. Over.
No, that's not.
Roger Victor.
No, definitely not.
Hey, it just shows with all the differences we all have that we're at ease, we have fun, we laugh, unlike some ballers.
Wouldn't that also mean we'd all have to have like names? Like, you can call me Maverick. What should we call Arwin?
Maverick.
Arwin. How dare you?
I think we call Arwin. I don't know. I can't think of a good word. Well, we can call Ramsey
Very
Snake.
careful for your next few words.
I'm thinking, but we'll call Ramsey Snake.
He decided he didn't want to be here, so
now Ranty is now Canty. Ranty, new name is Chanty. You know it.
What about
I know.
Tony?
We'll call Arwen Ace because that's what wasn't Ace one of the pilots in Top Gun.
Ace.
That's what
Owen
I
Why
is.
are you on Top Gun?
Yeah, Owen is Ace.
Why are you
Arwen
on
the
Top
Ace.
Gun? What are we going
You're-
to call
you're not
you?
being Maverick.
What are we going to
Who
call
crashed
you,
and
Tony?
died?
Sack?
Who was the one that crashed and
Sniffing
died?
I'll be the Joker.
The Joker wasn't in Top Gun.
No, it's in this.
Hey.
It's not
next
Ice,
to the
Anthony.
Ace.
Anthony, it's not Ace. It's Iceman. Iceman.
Who was the one that got shot out of the sky?
Your sister.
Shot out of the sky.
Right. For that one, John, you can be the guy that got shot out of the sky. Was it Iceman? Was he the one that died?
Nobody. Who got shot in the sky and dies?
In Top Gun, who was the one that got shot out of the sky?
No,
I didn't
none
pay
of
enough
them
attention.
died.
the hell?
They shot. They ejected.
Careful, if we keep talking about Top Gun, some fundies will jump in.
Goose was the one that died, wasn't he? Goose.
No, that's Mad Max.
He slammed his head into the canopy. Of the plane,
No,
and he
that's
ejected.
Mad Max.
Yes, Goose died because he hit the canopy.
That's right. So John can be called Goose then. So
Goose. And you can be called Sack Sniffing Sassenach.
Oh God, Goose! You have to let him go, sir.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the Goose from Mad Max 1, man. That was really dramatic.
I remember that, Arwen, when he went heads over the handlebars into the field, and then it was terrible.
Yeah, he burned all up and shit. Like, it was a really horrific scene where the Mad Max would afterward get the glimpse of him, and the people watching the movie couldn't even see it. It was that horrific, right? Really left it up to
did
the
a really good
imagination.
job with that.
It's all filmed.
Hey,
on
check
a
out
flat Earth,
Numpty
too.
Clips today, man. It's going to be Gem Panda today. Rumpus Wednesday and Kosho Thursday. Check these out, man. They're really good.
Oh, so Gem Panda, anybody who's doing the circuit, how's Gem Panda getting on with acquiring an actual observation height for the Blackpool Swan?
He doesn't know what height means. How are you going to ask him that? He's dumber than Ranty.
They claim that they have all the measurements already.
We've had
I was
6
in
so
there last
far.
night.
6 heights so far.
Which one?
Can I have the pseudo-Ramonians for space coordinates, please?
That'd be a 7th.
Well, I showed Ranty that picture of there's a picture that says hashtag shit shrinks. And there's a dinosaur in the foreground and then a mountain in the distance that looks tiny. And they were all trying to argue that I had to supply the distances to the objects in the foreground and the mountain before they can start using the perspective hijacking curve calculator to prove that would also be a white swan. They're
that's
just
'cause
retarded.
They'd have to convert to actual sizes to work in a perspective exclusive mathematics.
Correct.
Nathan,
the moment,
So Mr.
the moment
so
that they
Mr.
put the ruler,
Non-scalable in a million years is demanding.
Yeah, exactly. I need the exact distance and actual size of this dinosaur in the foreground to talk about the fact that it's clearly obscuring all of the mountain. For us to run that through the maths and decide how much Earth curve should or shouldn't be getting in the way, I need the actual sizes
Exactly.
first. But clearly the dinosaur's just bigger though, right? It's a bigger than a mountain dinosaur? Well, we'll need the maths.
no, they need the distance.
Need
They
the distance,
can't assume it's bigger until they see the distance.
It's a super megalodon.
Until you've got the height and distance, Arwen, that might be a mountain-sized dinosaur toy. You just don't know. You can't be too certain.
Right. It's just like a giant turtle that carries around a city. That type of creature.
Yeah, it's Godzilla. Like when Godzilla gives his kids a toy, it could be one of them.
Hey, Nathan, I talked to the photographer on the West Side photo. I don't know if you're talking about that one or the other one.
What did you find out? I don't know which one we're talking about really either. But carry on.
The one on I saw a man.
Isle of Man.
Looking to the west. Yep. I talked to him about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got his observer height. He's roughly around 1,200 feet. There should be over 1,500 feet of drop. I did all the calculations. Blackpool Tower's 544 feet above sea level. If it was curved, we see in that mountain is roughly over 477 feet, things shrink, right? In distance, that's 90 miles away. Why is the tip of Blackpool Tower the same height as the tip of Snaefell? That's 234 feet tall. But if it's missing, right, and it was curved, it'd be 477 feet. That's 3 times the distance from Blackpool Tower. So from the observer to Blackpool is 25 miles. From Blackpool to the mountain is 65 miles.
Right. That's the problem that's been highlighted thanks to cats. Hashtag thanks, cats. As soon as you start discussing the fact that perspective is real and your calculator excludes it, you're then into this need to acquire angular sizes to make assertions that can run through the calculator with actual sizes. But then you've got to burn the straw man and claim it's ours. It's like, yeah, but all you're really doing is highlighting the lack of perspective in your calculations for a globe Earth that doesn't have a physical horizon anymore. So it's all bad news for a glober at the moment.
I brought out a video at the weekend, and I absolutely prove with real-world observation and heights and everything else that visual occultation and optical drop are 100% real. Not that there wasn't already real-world evidence of that. You see it daily, but the borders are just ignoring it.
Well, they are and they
I don't
aren't.
know what's going on. It's like it's real-world evidence.
Exactly, Neil. I'm calling you Neil, Brian. Sorry. Exactly. We're in a position where, when it was the Isle of Man discussion, we've got them asserting that we've got a whole bunch of excuses for what is actually Earth curve. In other words, they've got one column and it's got R in it. And then they've got this other column that's all the excuses for why it's not R, causing an obstruction at the horizon. Right? That's their claim back at the Isle of Man. Once you've got Cats and Co. opening up the doors to how can we look at other factors, like perspective, it's like, don't you dumbos realise that when you were arguing geometry and the lack of a requirement to utilise perspective, you were demeaning us, calling it flurfspective, because you didn't want it to be factored in when you made your geometric claims. So by opening those doors and saying, well, if we look at it in terms of perspective and then burn that as a flat earth straw man, it's like, well, I don't care that you burn it as a flat earth straw man. We pointed that out on day one. But what I do care about is you've now opened the floodgates for Brian's assertion. Well, what about all these other effects that we discussed years ago and you all hand waved? You've just opened the door to looking at them. And what you're going to do every time there's a different factor, calculate it, re-engineer it back into an actual size, put it through the calculator, and then translate it back into an angular size afterwards. All you're doing is highlighting the deficiencies in your own calculations every time you do it. Well, that's glorious for us. I mean, I can't believe they've been this stupid, if I'm honest. I know it's been a month now, but it's like, literally, I still can't fathom how stupid they've been. They just don't think. If I was a glober, I wouldn't do that. You know, if I was defending that position, that I wouldn't ever open the doors to talking about perspective. It'd just be so far removed from being on the table. So you see it and you go, what gift? Why do you think I've come up with the hashtag thanks cats? I mean, I said it would take them a few weeks to figure out me pointing out that it's a great move for us to open these doors again. That's why Brian can start saying, well, yeah, let's talk about how much stuff is going to potentially drop in the distance when we're not begging the question with the proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. How can these effects be reconciled? Well, we've looked at them all before, but they were all disregarded. It's just stuck on a list as not being Earth curve. So thank you very much, our opponent. Yeah, we'll talk about these effects again. We've got hours and hours of discussion on it. You know, check out the videos from Life is Short, where these things are detailed to a very comprehensive level. Now, I say that, I still consider both, don't take this the wrong way, Life is Short, but me and Life is Short ignorant in this regard. This is something that needs to be studied further and has essentially been suppressed, nay, replaced with Earth curve. So there's going to be so much more to discover in these particular areas of optics, not geometry. But that's where the argument ended at the Isle of Man. We don't need your optics, we've got geometry. So then you move forward to 2020, we debunk the geometry, they no longer have an R value, they don't have a tangent to an Earth curve edge horizon, that's all gone. But then they, after that, open the doors to perspective. You're like, oh my God, what a bum move. How thick are you?
Yeah, it's so bad. Just on the back of what you're saying there, Nathan, that the optical drop phenomenon, what the ballers have done is just 2 points. One, what they've done with that is they go and do a Google search. They can't find anything about it. They come back and say, you just made it up. I didn't make it up. I'm showing, I can detail it, explain it, describe it. I can show physical demonstration of it, and I can show real world demonstration of it. I didn't make it up. It's one of those things that was called Earth curve for years. They used to call, strangely enough, they used to call inferior mirage Earth curve until Ranty disproved them. So I think it was Don was speaking there. Was that Don Gio speaking there a minute ago? When he was, I think that was Don was speaking a minute ago. That brought up the Isle of Man photo. He brought it up on Brandon's the other night, and the first place that the ballers Rumpus and them wanted to go to was how much was hidden in the photograph instead of the geometric horizon. Me and Eli and others were saying the geometric horizon. You have to have a geometric horizon. Never mind how much is hidden. At 45 miles away, there's supposed to be a geometric horizon. And they wouldn't address it. They kept on going, yes, yes, yes. Anyway, how much is hidden? Because they can't go to the geometry anymore. So they have to go to how much is hidden and try and just plain globe, while stating that we're making up visual effects.
Indeed. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!